Welcome to the regular Half Moon Bay City Council meeting for June 16th, 2026. As a reminder, if you are joining this meeting via Zoom, you can still make public comment. During any public comment portions, attendees may use the raise your hand feature and will be called upon and unmuted when it is your turn to speak. If joining by phone, use *9 to raise your hand, *6 to mute and unmute. We also have Spanish interpretation services available in person and via Zoom. On Point Language Solutions is in the back left corner of the room. If anyone needs assistance with interpretation services, and now someone from On Point will provide information on how to receive these services. I think Victor's here this evening to do that.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much, honorable council members, Mr. Chittister, Ms. Bizano, Ms. Rodriguez, all city staff, members of the public, Victor Hernandez, Spanish interpreter. Muy buenas tardes. Les queremos dejar saber a los miembros del público que se les proporcionará interpretación en vivo de toda esta reunión en español. Para poder acceder a los servicios de interpretación en vivo por Zoom, ya sea con una computadora o una portátil, usted tendrá que hacer clic en lo que es un icono del globo terráqueo, es decir, un mundo, y seleccione lo que es el idioma en español. Ahora, si ustedes están usando un teléfono inteligente, una tableta, busque lo que es el menú de 3 puntos, seleccione interpretación, luego seleccione lo que es el idioma, que sería español, y por último usted tendrá que hacer clic en Done o listo. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Victor. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brownstone.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Nagengast.
Here.
Vice Mayor Penrose.
Here.
Mayor Ruddick.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening. The next item is approval of the agenda. I am going to ask that the person who makes the motion moves the, where can I find it here? Where's the Portuguese? 11A. I'm recommending that you make a motion for approval, but saying that we're going to move 11A, which is the sister city exploration with Nazaré, Portugal, up to right after the consent agenda. So the motion would be to approve the agenda with that change.
I move that we approve the agenda with the change that we move the item 11A up to right after consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next item is proclamations and presentations. And the first item under item 3 would be a Mid-Coast Community Council update.
Good evening, Council. I'm Scott from the Mid-Coast Community Council, and thanks for having me over as always. Last month, the County Planning Department approached us with a concept to increase the rate of new permit approvals from 40 a year to 75 a year, and also to recoup any unused permits from that 40 and make them available immediately. From 2013 on, they wanted to capture those and make them available immediately. So the community had a lot of concerns about that increase in growth without consideration for improvements in infrastructure to support that kind of growth. But our county supervisor was able to put that item on hold and He was able to put it on hold, and we'll bring it up at a later date with an opportunity for public comment and a thorough review.
Comentarios públicos y aprobación.
Okay.
We're having a technical issue here with, we're hearing the translation. We shouldn't be hearing that. So I think the city manager is going to address that. If you could just hold on for a sec.
Got it. Cool, no problem.
Yeah. We should be good now, so you can continue.
Oh, no worries. Do you want to test it or anything like that? I think we're good. Okay, all right, thank you. No problem. Okay, moving on. As always, we're continuing to engage in outreach in the community. And big thanks to to Coastside Radio for giving us an opportunity to be on the air. It was fantastic. And we're still looking for people who are interested on the MCC. So if you're interested, let us know. And you can always get in contact with us through just by Googling Midcoast Community Council. So at our next meeting, which will be held on June 24th at 7 p.m. in the normal location, we're going to have a presentation from the Medical Research Corp. That's part of the San Mateo County Department of Emergency Management. And they are looking for volunteers with a medical background or anyone in the medical field to be available to respond and be trained how to do it in emergencies such as floods or fires, et cetera. So if you're interested in that or any other points that have to do with the Mid-Coast up there, you can see us in person or on Zoom. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this item of the Midcoast Community Council report? Either in the room or online?
There's one online speaker.
Sid Young would like to comment, so you could just hang there for a sec.
Sure.
Yeah. Sid?
Hi, no offense to Scott, but he misstated what the county planning department said at both their planning meeting and at the Midcoast Community Council. Recently, because they gave out 71 units of the 40 per year at the end of 2025 to Mid-Penn Housing, they had to freeze all permits on the Mid-Coast all the way up to 2028. So they in a quandary because that didn't allow any private owners to build. They went back and were trying to do a workaround, and they went back to see how many permits they'd been giving out prior to Mid-Penn taking up the big lion's share. And they determined that they weren't giving out even 30 units per year up until last November. So they thought they could go back and use some of the prior year's allocations to allow permits to move forward. They're not planning to give out 75 per year. That would require going to the Coastal Commission. And at some point they may do that, but they haven't, that's not in their plan immediately. What they're trying to do is get a way to not slam on the brakes of all building until 2028. And the reason for that is because if they don't allow any building permits until 2028, then immediately when they open the door, then all those allocations will be used up and they'll still have another logjam. So that's what they're trying to do, the workaround. So it's not a 75 unit thing at the moment. It's only 40 per year, but what they're trying to do is use up some of the look back and using some of the prior year's allocations that they never used up. Sorry,
Yes, they're
Scott.
looking at a carryover. Thank you, Sid.
Yes.
Am I allowed to comment?
Briefly.
Okay, thanks, Sid, for the background on the story.
That's good. Thank you, Scott. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good evening. The next item is honoring our Youth Parks and Recreation Commissioners. And the city manager will speak briefly about that. Then we're going to have present a proclamation and have a photo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Back in early 2025, the Parks and Recreation Commission, which consisted of 5 members of the community appointed by the council to support city staff and the community in the Parks and Rec field and in the programs that we offer, put forth an idea to add youth members to the commission. We already have a youth member of our Bike Ped Advisory Committee, and so it was something we had done successfully elsewhere, and ultimately the council approved it, and since mid-2025, we've had 2 members of our Recreation Commission, so a total of 7 now, come from Coastside Youth. And it has been incredibly rewarding and I think helpful to all of us to have a different perspective, a different experience, representation of the youth of the Coastside, which is what so much of recreation is geared towards. And I think part of it is 2 really excellent inaugural members of that commission. And tonight we want to honor one of them. Frankie DeRosa is a senior, well, was a senior at Half Moon Bay High School. And I'll let her talk about what's happening to her now. But great student and great member of the community, a member of the soccer team, so may have been pressured by our city clerk, who's the coach, to apply. But Frankie has been really, really phenomenal on the commission, did not do this passively, did it really, was very engaged and attended all the meetings and offered great perspectives. And we're excited for her future, but sad to see her go. And so we're grateful tonight to be able to recognize her as she moves on to the next stage of her life. Frankie, do you want to share anything with the mic?
Yes, I just want to say thank you to everyone on the committee who allowed me and welcomed me with.
Pull down the mic. You can pull it down. There you
and
go.
welcomed me with open arms. I thought it was a very just incredible experience, and I got so much out of it. And it really helped me see how much care and love goes into this community, which I'm very thankful for. So thank you to everyone. And I'm going to be starting at William and Mary in Virginia in the fall. So that's what's next for me. But yeah, thank you so much.
Fantastic. Your fellow commissioners only had great things to say about you.
Thank you.
For staff, one of the highlights was when Frankie came here to teach some of our staff how to better use Instagram. So
Fantastic.
very appropriate, right?
Yeah, that's great. So we'd like. Okay, moving on to item 4, which is mayor's announcements of community activities and community service. First of all, there will be a celebration of life for former Mayor Al Andravino on Friday, June 26th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Farmer John's Pumpkin Patch, and that is at 805 Cabrillo Highway 1 North. I know that he knows a lot of folks in town, and a member of the great Half Moon Bay family, and contributed a lot to many different organizations here. So feel free to join on Friday, June 26th. Then I'm going to mention the old-fashioned 4th of July, which will be Saturday, July 4th. There will be pancake breakfast hosted by the Half Moon Bay Lions Club from 8 to 11:30. There will be a parade from 12 noon on. It's usually about 90 minutes. And it will be it will be featuring Jill Jacobson as the Grand Marshal, former head of the Boys and Girls Club. And then there's the IDES Festival at IDES on Main Street from 10 to 4. So lots happening. It's always a great time, great, Main Street America type of event. We get a lot of people coming over the hill to join us, and it's really wonderful. And that's all I have this evening. So next is report out from recent closed session meetings. I'll ask our city attorney to speak on this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This evening, the council met in closed session on 4 items. I do want to point out that there's no reportable action for the items. There is item 4A, for which the council will be considering during the regular session. That's item 11D on the council's agenda this evening.
Great, thank you very much. Item 6 is commission and committee updates. It looks like we don't have any of those this evening. And then we have item 7, city manager updates to council. It looks like none of those this evening either.
No, not tonight.
Okay, so we have item 8, which is public forum. And do I have some slips here to work off of? Thank you. So we don't have many speakers so far on public forum, so I'll allow you to speak for 3 minutes. And the first speaker is Nancy Fontana.
Members of the council and public, I'm here to ask, let's see, how would I put this? I would like to request that we have a housing project on this evening's meeting, I know that, but this is a general request about all housing projects that include low, very low, affordable housing. During the Kelly project, I became aware, a friend had told me there was a potential that after 15 years, that could change from the lower figures to market or something close to market. And then again at the last council meeting where the mayor made a statement and mentioned that 15-year window, there was a possibility of that. Going forward for any housing projects, I think it's really important for the public to be aware that this is a potential. I don't know if there's a way to analyze if one project has that potential more than another, but I think that would be very helpful. It would be more transparent on any project, because I was shocked. I was really surprised when my friend told me about it. And I was at a group today at the library, and a lady who lives in housing on Main Street, and her rent has gone up to $4,000. I don't know how long the project has been there. I don't know the details, but that's what she said. I don't know if it's true. I just heard it today. So I just really think it's important on any project to be aware of that, and I hope that you will consider that. Thank you.
If I may paraphrase, it sounds like maybe she is asking for a general discussion of affordable housing, how it works, periods of affordability, that kind of thing.
Madam Mayor, I think we'll check in with Ms. Fontana and try to clarify that and answer some of those questions.
Okay, great, thank you. The next speaker is Harvey Warbach.
Good evening, Council. For the last couple of weeks, I, along with a bunch of other supporters of 555 Kelly, have been handing out literature in favor of the project. And we've been doing that mostly next to the signature gatherers who are collecting signatures to referend what they're doing. They are scaring people who are supporting the project. I've seen all that personally. The petition form that they've been circulating initially for the first couple of weeks had the actual ordinance covered over, which is against state election law. They had a website where you supposedly could find out who the supporters, the financial supporters of this referendum were, and it really went nowhere. The petition gatherers claimed, as I said 2 weeks ago, that they were neutral. All they wanted to do was let the voters decide. But the reality is that they are trying to delay the project or stop it. And I think that is deceiving. Matter of fact, a lot of people came up to us who were handing out literature and saying they'd already signed to get the project on the ballot. And what they meant was that they were told that the only purpose of the referendum was to do that. There is going to be an investigation of the tactics of the signature gatherers. I was intimidated personally by a signature gatherer who told me personally not to get involved with that investigation. That's witness tampering. So I hope you consider this when we go forward with what we're going to do with the referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. The next speaker is Joaquin Jimenez.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, city staff, members of the public. My name is Joaquin Jimenez, Joaquin Murrieta in social media, and I'm here to remind you to mark your date for Vaquero Days, August 15th and August 16th. That's going to take place here in Half Moon Bay. Vaquero Days is the celebration of the heritage of the equestrian community of the coastside, as well as the equestrian community of the state of California. We have several other cities in California that have celebrated vaqueros, cowboys, for several years. Half Moon Bay, in the early 1900s, they had a celebration pretty similar to what we do with our Vaquero Days. And we want to continue, to celebrate, our heritage of the equestrian community in the coast. We are expecting a lot of horses on the day of the 15th. We do a trail ride from Higgins Canyon to Wave Crest to the beach, back to Kelly, and the music, live band. We'll be waiting for the horses at McDutra, and from there we're gonna go on a parade of horses back to Higgins to continue the celebration. On Sunday, the 16th, the event will take place downtown on Kelly Avenue. We're gonna have live music, wine tasting, food vendors, and beautiful dancing horses and cultural dances from our community. So please mark your calendar, save the date, August 15th and August 16th for the celebration of Vaquero Days. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Hale Bogner.
Madam Mayor, Hal Bogner, Poplar Street. Before my 3 minutes begin, I just might ask if there's an opportunity to respond to some of the unfortunate things that were just falsely said.
I think you need to stick to your 3 minutes.
Thank you. So, first of all, on behalf of Let Half Moon Bay Voters Decide group, this afternoon we turned in 1,085 signatures for verification by the county to the newly titled city clerk. Congratulations, Maggie. We've spent the last 30 days collecting these signatures. They represent roughly 1 in every 8 voters in the city of Half Moon Bay. 2 years ago, we similarly collected 1,179 signatures at the time of the appeals against the permits. The city said that those were not referendable, so we waited for this rather than pursue any litigation or anything like that to argue those things. We simply wish for voters to have the opportunity to fully understand the pros and cons of the project. I applaud the giving out of literature expressing the positives of the project. I applaud that people should, going forward, pro and con, and on all aspects, bring information to the public so voters can make sound decisions. Our meetings have been filled with a lot of emotional pleas on all sides, but there's still a lot of factual information that needs to be brought out to the public on all sides, and that's what many voters wished for. One thing that happened during the petition gathering was there was a lot of questions of people saying, I don't want to be seen to sign this or something. I want to assure all voters that signing such a petition is a private right, that the city attorney and election workers at county have both assured me that if you've signed a petition, it's nobody's business. It's processed by the elections officials, and it stays there. It's not like a ballot counting at November when observers can challenge ballots. It's private information. It never becomes a public record. In this country, our most important right is our right to vote. It's enshrined in the California Constitution that city council ordinances can be petitioned to be brought to the voters, and that's what we did, and that's what we're looking forward to seeing decided by a consensus of the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking online to see if there's any raised hands to speak during public comment. Don't see any. I guess we'll bring it back to the council. So the next item is item 9, the consent calendar. And yes, public forum is closed. We're moving on to the consent calendar. We have numerous things on there. I wanted to pull 9G, and I'm happy to just move that to the end of the agenda about the COPS grant, because I have some questions about that. I personally don't wish to pull any other items. Is there any other council member who would like to pull items off consent for later discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to read the consent items so that if there's someone who would like to address something on consent, you may do so. So the items are as follows. Item 9A, waive reading of ordinances and resolutions. Item 9B, accept the warrants for the month of May 2026. Item 9C, annual renewal of public works contracts. Item 9D, annual renewal of community development agreements. Item 9E, Cassell Inc. Professional Services Agreement. Item 9F, agreement with Abundant Grace for the fiscal year 26-27 coastal cleanup program. Item 9H, approve minutes of the June 2nd, 2026 special meeting. Item 9I, approve minutes of the June 2nd, 2026 regular meeting. Item 9J, authorize First Amendment to Legal Services Agreement for permanent contract city attorney position. And that's it. So the motion to approve would be all items with the exception of 9G.
I move that we accept all of the items on our consent agenda with the exception of 9G.
Okay, I'm just going to, okay. So we have a motion and a second, but I'm going to ask the public if there are any items you would like to address. You can come to the podium and do that now. Or if you're online and would like to address any of those items, you may do so at this time. We'll give you a moment to raise your hand. Is that for the consent calendar? Okay. I see nobody online, so I'm going to ask for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Penrose?
Yes.
Mayor Reddick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. So we're moving on to, we've moved up, as you recall, item 11A, which is Sister City Exploration with Nazaré, Portugal. So that's the item we're going to be addressing now.
Madam Mayor, I'll do a brief introduction, and then we'll invite some esteemed guests to share a presentation with us. For those that don't know, Sister Cities agreements are something that came after World War II as a way to build community internationally, to bridge cultures, to support each other and to learn. And I think a lot of people know that we have a sister city in Kariwa, Japan that was established about 30 years ago. And we actually do student exchanges every other year. Half Moon Bay students go there for an exchange one year, and then students from Japan come here every other year. And it's a very exciting agreement and setup. And if you've been to the library lately, you'll see in the courtyard, there's a beautiful new garden that represents Half Moon Bay and Kariwa, Japan. And there's going to be a bridge and some celebrations later this year. Well, going back to 2023, the city of Nazaré, Portugal has been investigating doing something similar with us. And for those of you that don't know, Nazaré is a community about an hour north of Lisbon, which I kind of equate to San Francisco. They've got their own Golden Gate Bridge, and it's a coastal community about the size of Half Moon Bay. And they have a big wave surfing site. The world record for the last several years for the biggest waves in the world being surfed have all come out of Nazaré, Portugal. And things have really gotten interesting lately, and there's a big desire for a partnership between us and them. And we have some great members of our Portuguese community here who are spearheading the effort locally, so I'd like to invite them up now to share a presentation to talk about what this could look like. Jonathan and Fernando, come on up.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Fernando Oliveira. I am a Portuguese immigrant, and the Half Moon Bay is the community where I am proud to call home. As a Portuguese man living in America, the idea of building a real lasting connection between this town and Portugal, it means more to me than I can easily put in words. Early this year, I had the privilege of meeting the mayor of Nazaré. I can tell you firsthand, they believe in this. They are ready. They are waiting for Half Moon Bay answer. I am proud of my son, Jonathan, for driving this initiative, for bringing it before you tonight. Thank you.
I want to drop that.
Good evening, Mayor Ruddick and members of the City Council. Thank you so much for having us tonight. Thank you to my father for the wonderful introduction. And I also want to thank the Portuguese community and everyone here tonight who has been a part of this. Your support means a great deal. What we're bringing to you is more than a proposal. It's really a story about who Half Moon Bay is, where we came from, and honestly, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to put this town on the world map in a way that feels completely naturally ours. Tonight, we are proposing a sister city partnership between Half Moon Bay, California and Nazaré, Portugal. Two small coastal towns, two communities built by the sea. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. Just hold on. Two small coastal towns, two communities built by the sea, and a connection so deep, so real, we think by the end of tonight, you're going to wonder why this hasn't happened already. So let's start with the basics. Who are these two towns? Half Moon Bay, you know, about 13,000 people, Pacific Ocean coast, famous for pumpkins, artichokes, and some of the most powerful surf on the planet. Strong Portuguese roots going back generations. Small farming economy, fishing, tourism, and of course, mavericks. Now meet Nazaré, Portugal, Atlantic Ocean coast. About 10,000 people, a little smaller than us, known for fishing, for folklore, for ancient seafaring traditions going back centuries. Their economy looks remarkably similar to ours. Fishing, agriculture, and tourism industry that is absolutely exploding right now. And their surf, Nazaré is home to the largest waves ever surfed by a human being. 100-foot swells driven by an underwater canyon that funnels the entire Atlantic directly onto their coastline. When you put these two towns side by side, the similarities aren't just interesting, they're striking. Now, here's something a lot of people don't fully appreciate. Even people who lived here their whole lives. Half Moon Bay has Portuguese roots that go all the way back to the mid-1800s. Portuguese immigrants, primarily from the Azores, were among the very first European settlers in this area. They weren't just passing through, they built this place. Portuguese fishermen, Portuguese farmers, they established the coastal economy that Half Moon Bay still runs on today. And for those traditions to disappear, if you're ever attended, and those traditions didn't disappear, if you've ever attended the Holy Ghost Festival, the Festa do Espírito Santo, that's a living, breathing expression of Portuguese culture that has survived here for over a century. Now here's where it gets really powerful. Nazaré shares that exact same heritage, the same deep Atlantic seafaring culture, the same fishing traditions. What those early settlers brought to California from Portugal, it came from communities like Nazaré. A sister city bond doesn't just create a new relationship, it reconnects a relationship that has been quietly running through the DNA of this town for 150 years. Now let's talk about waves. If you want one single image that captures why Half Moon Bay and Nazaré belong together, it's this. One side, mavericks, right here in our backyard, on the Pacific. One of the most feared big wave breaks anywhere on Earth. In December 2024, surfer Alo Slebier rode an estimated 76-foot wave at Mavericks, with some measurements placing it as high as 108 feet, a wave that may have just broken the world record. On the other side of the world, Praia do Norte in Nazaré, Portugal, on the Atlantic, home of the largest waves ever officially surfed. 100-foot swells powered by a massive underwater canyon. For the last decade, Nazaré has been the name in big wave surfing across the globe. Pacific meets Atlantic. These two breaks are already in direct connection and conversations around the world, in the surf world. We're just making it official. And we're not stopping there. We've connected with multiple big wave surfers from around the world, and we are actively working to secure an ambassador, someone who has surfed both breaks, to serve as a living bridge between these two communities, a human connection to match the one that the two oceans already made. Big waves get the headlines, but when you dig deeper, the similarities between the two towns go much further. Both towns are defined by small family-run farms. Half Moon Bay is famous for pumpkins and artichokes. Nazaré has olives, grapes, local produce. Agriculture isn't a side note for either of us. It is part of who we are. Fishing has sustained both communities for generations. And there's a detail about Nazaré that I just love. Their fishing beach was so important to their daily life that they used oxen to pull the boats ashore. That's how central the sea was to everything that they did. Sound familiar? And think about the size. Half Moon Bay is 13,000 people. Nazaré is 10,000 people. These are not big cities. These are towns where you know your neighbors, where the same families have run the same shops for decades, where community isn't just a word, it's something you can actually feel. The coastal identity, the cultural traditions, the shared values around the land and the sea, this is not a partnership of convenience. This is a mirror. These towns genuinely see themselves in each other. Now let's talk about what this means economically, because it's not just about culture and history. There is a real, tangible opportunity here for Half Moon Bay. Nazaré draws millions of viewers every single year through their big wave surf contest that broadcasts worldwide. Millions of people watching, and right now, Half Moon Bay isn't officially in that conversation. A sister city designation puts us on that global stage. Think about what this means for visitors. Portuguese tourists, surfers, and travelers who are already going to Nazaré become a natural new audience for Half Moon Bay. And our visitors become an audience to them, for them. You create a pipeline in both directions, across the Pacific and the Atlantic. The media opportunities are real too. Joint events, cultural exchanges, and the Surf Ambassador connection create the kind of stories that travel media and international press actually want to cover. That's earned coverage you simply cannot buy. A sister city bond also opens the door to new annual events, joint surf festivals, cultural celebrations, cross-promotional tourism campaigns between the two cities. And at the end of the day, more visitors means more revenue for local restaurants, hotels, shops, and farms. That flows directly back into the small business economy that makes Half Moon Bay what it is. We've talked about why this partnership makes sense. Now let's talk about what it looks like, literally, physically, right here in our community. We are proposing a permanent installation at the heart of the downtown in Half Moon Bay. At the intersection of Main Street and Correias Street, we want to install a traditional Portuguese calçada compass rose, a hand-laid stone mosaic black basalt and white limestone spanning all four crosswalk quadrants of that intersection. This isn't a plaque, this isn't a sign on the wall. It's a piece of ancient Portuguese craftsmanship embedded in the ground at the center of our downtown that will be there for generations. Every single person who walks through that intersection will walk across the symbol of where this town came from. The stones and artisans would be arranged through our partnership negotiation with Nazaré, part of an ongoing conversation about what this sister city bond looks like in practice. The compass rose, the Rosa dos Ventos, the rose of the winds, is a perfect symbol. It points in all directions. It honors where we've been, and it points toward where we're going. I want you to take a moment to look at these photographs, because when we first encountered this tradition, we had to see it to believe it. What you're looking at is one of the several calçada installations gifted to California communities through the Portuguese Sister City partnerships. This tradition has been shared multiple times across the state. It is not a one-off gesture. It is a recurring expression of cultural pride and connection. Look at the craftsmanship. Every single stone placed by hand. This is not a decorative tile. This is an art that traces its roots back to ancient Rome, refined and perfected over centuries by Portuguese artisans. The dedication ceremonies for these installations have drawn the highest levels of Portuguese government. That is how meaningful this tradition is to the Portuguese people. Calçada has been gifted to California communities multiple times, and we are proposing to bring this tradition to Half Moon Bay. We are not speaking in abstractions. We have already identified a location right here at the intersection of Main Street and Correa Street in downtown Half Moon Bay. The compass rose would be embedded in the center of the intersection, spanning all 4 crosswalk quadrants. You can see it marked on the aerial view. Why this spot? Because it's where people already walk. It's where the community life happens. It's visible, accessible, and it's at the center of everything. And the craft itself, calçada is an ancient technique perfected over centuries using black, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. The calçada is an ancient technique perfected over centuries using black basalt and white limestone laid stone by hand to create the Rosa dos Ventos, the compass rose. The vision is a permanent, beautiful landmark, not just a nod to our history, a destination, something people come downtown to specifically see, something our residents are so proud of every single day they'll walk past by it. The stones and artisans would be arranged as a part of our partnership negotiations with Nazaré, and the corner of Main Street becomes something truly extraordinary. I want to take a moment to share where this project stands because it did not start last week and it did not start with a phone call. It started last year when we met the new Consul General of Portugal at his home. That conversation is what set everything in motion. And this year on June 8th, 2026, at Dia de Portugal celebration at San Francisco City Hall, lit up in the colors of Portugal, as you can see, those doors open wide. The mayor of San Francisco is in full support of the Half Moon Bay Nazaré Sister Cities initiative. The Consul General in San Francisco of Portugal, the relationship began last year at his home and deepened in person at this year's Dia de Portugal celebration. And the Secretary of State for the Economy of Portugal was there, and he also engaged and was very supportive of this project. And the mayor of Nazaré himself, he met with my dad, Fernando Oliveira, and our team earlier this year and committed to making this happen. Nazaré's dignitaries are not waiting to be convinced. They are waiting for Half Moon Bay's response. The momentum is not something we're hoping to build. It's already here on both the Pacific and the Atlantic sides of this partnership. What we need now, what we are here to ask for tonight, is for Half Moon Bay to answer. So here's what we're asking for. It's 5 steps, and they build on each other naturally. First, pass a resolution supporting the Sister City designation, a formal statement that Half Moon Bay is in. Second, establish a Half Moon Bay and Nazaré Sister City Committee. And I want to be clear, this committee is already coming together. We have active, committed Portuguese Americans right here on the Half Moon Bay side who are ready to serve and carry this forward. Third, begin formal outreach to Nazaré city officials. We've already opened that door, and the mayor of Nazaré has committed. This step walks through the door. They're already holding it open. Fourth, plan an inaugural exchange event and groundbreaking on Main Street, the first physical moment that makes this partnership real and visible for the entire community. And fifth, announce a partnership and launch joint tourism initiatives. Put Half Moon Bay on the world stage along one of the most internationally recognized small towns in Europe. 2 towns, 2 oceans, a shared soul. One community shaped by the Pacific, one shaped by the Atlantic, and a bond between them that is true, that is historical, and that has been waiting. We ask the mayor and the city council of Half Moon Bay to approve a sister city partnership with Nazaré. Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you. don't know if you
So
have
the
any
city
questions.
manager would like to weigh in here?
Yeah, so obviously, great presentation, and staff has had the chance to meet with some of these folks, and the passion is real, as you can see. The commitment's real, and staff are excited for the opportunity to work on this. There's no decision tonight, but what we are looking for is a little bit of feedback and direction to continue to work with the group and work towards that first step, which is a resolution and an MOU, which is already being drafted and talked about. And, one of the great things is this is very community-led. Nobody's asking the city for money or resources. I would say we probably want to talk about that at some point, but right now they're just looking for our willingness to be a partner in this. So.
Place matters, tradition matters, so it's a very
Absolutely.
exciting prospect.
Absolutely, and I'll just give some insight. I mean, we were heavily involved in the sister city in Sausalito with Cascais, and we helped to procure the stones and to build that Compass Rose. Our company, our family business, Farallon Company, we helped engineer the project and build the foundation and structure, and we were in direct communication with procuring donations and basically worked with the city just to get approvals of where, this project would be. So that's what we're asking from you guys, to work with us and let us try to handle getting the money on our own.
Yeah, wonderful. So I actually have several people in the audience who would like to talk about this evening. So I'm going to take those public comments now, if that's okay. And then we can open up discussion here.
Okay.
I see people online as well.
Does anyone have any more questions for me? Or?
Clarifying questions at the moment? No, I think that can wait. Okay. So we'll start with the public comment. And the first speaker is Naomi Patridge.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and city staff. I'm here because Fernando broke my arm if I didn't speak. No, not just joking, but I want to say what a great presentation. I was on the Kadiwa Sister Committee and on the city council when that happened. And we had the same goal of sharing culture, sharing children, and sharing the city of Half Moon Bay with Kadiwa, along with they want to share with Portugal. We are a mixed community here, and it's very important that all of us are represented and that we can continue to share these kind of things with other countries and, get along. I'm for always getting along with everybody, so please approve this. It's a great project.
Thank you, Naomi. The next speaker is Nancy Fontana. Nancy, are you here? Okay.
Mayor and City Council and the public, I'm just here to support the project. I think it's nice to have the cultures, all the cultures that are here in Half Moon Bay representative in some way. So, and they are certainly a big portion of our community, very active. So, and having worked for a city where they had a sister city, I think two maybe, it's a good program, and it's for a good reason, to bring cultures and countries together. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. The next speaker is Carrie Burke.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the Council, everyone present. I'm Carrie Burke, and while I'm not Portuguese, the local community has supported me, and all my friends are Portuguese, mostly in Half Moon Bay. I have the pleasure of being a member of the Portuguese Cultural Center and IDS and have a blast volunteering and of course partaking in all the festivals and other activities that enrich our community. So this is a fantastic opportunity to strengthen, our heritage, our cultural bonds, and also with the similarities of our two communities is really just to find even new ways and aspirations to improve and be better. And it's just so, I just think it's a wonderful opportunity, and I hope we can work together and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. The next speaker is Jason Stark.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me. My name's Jason Stark. I'm a local resident, sixth generation in Half Moon Bay. I'm of Azorean descent. I may not look like it, but I'm also married to a Portuguese national back there, my beautiful wife, Joana, and our children out there. They're skateboarding right now. And they've got dual citizenship, and I like to surf big waves. I surf Mavericks for close to over 20 years now. I've surfed Nazare. I'm here to support this because I'm really excited about, as I married my wife, the Portuguese community, the Portuguese people are really good people. I'm really excited to, share that culture with our community, and strengthen the bond there. It's a really beautiful, beautiful culture. A lot of beautiful places to see. Azores, mainland Portugal, really, really beautiful destinations. And I'm excited to share my wife's beautiful culture with our town and strengthen that bond.
Thank you, Jason. I do have one hand raised online. Sid Young.
Hi. I think it's a really wonderful idea, although I will point out that Mavericks is in Moss Beach, where I live. But we're not a city, so I think it's a good idea to have a sister city that shares all those wonderful similarities. And I had Japanese exchange students at my house for several weeks back in the 80s, and it was really a wonderful cultural experience too. So I think that's a great thing. I did have one question for the person who was at the podium, and that is, why aren't there any Portuguese restaurants in Half Moon Bay? Because I attended the Chamarita Festival and the feast, and the food was great. But I have not seen any Portuguese restaurants there since I moved here in 1988. So that's just a thought. If he has an answer for me, that would be great to know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You can come to the PCC every Friday night. We have Portuguese food there, and that's as good as it gets.
I don't know that.
And this relationship, no doubt, will stimulate a Portuguese restaurant. I see another speaker online, or a couple actually, Dan Haggerty.
Yes, good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. I'll keep it short. I just think that this is a spectacularly wonderful idea. Fully support it. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Then we have, the next speaker looks like Joy. Joy, you've been unmuted. Okay, I'm not hearing from Joy. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Cannot hear you, Joy?
Oh, that's so weird. Okay, maybe come back to me.
Sure, we can come. We're going to have some council discussion now. So if you can take care of that fairly quickly, that'd be great.
Okay, I think I have it now. Can you
Okay,
hear me?
that's better. Go for it.
Okay, thank you, council members. I think this is an excellent idea. I fully support, And I am a member of the PCC, which, yes, they have excellent food on. An awesome idea, and this is a big yes. We need this. We need to recognize the Portuguese contributions to this town and their traditions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy. Okay. See no further speakers. I'll bring it back to the council for questions or comments, discussions. Vice Mayor?
Yes, in 2018, I was visited by the Vice Consul, I think, of Portugal, who was talking about establishing a sister city relationship. It never went anywhere, and I was very saddened because I thought, of all the sister cities that we need to have, Portugal is the most important. The Portuguese community in our town is well represented. They have the IDES Hall and the PCC, as it's called, the Portuguese Cultural Center. But we haven't given them formal recognition. And I think this would be a start at that. What they bring to our community, what they have brought to our community is invaluable. I'm very excited about the idea of this project, and I love the idea of the Main and Correa Street project, too. I think that's just a wonderful idea, so hear, hear.
I'll just touch on what you were saying about 2018 at the time. The General Counsel of San Francisco, he was a surfer, and I think that there were some ideas that were kicked around, like you said, about making Nazaré and Half Moon Bay sister cities, but no one really took the reins. So I think it's been brewing for years, but it's finally gotten to the point where it's coming to fruition.
Thank you. Other council members? Councilmember Brownstone, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love the idea of a Compass Rose installation. I think you mentioned that there's one in Sausalito already. Can you tell me where the location is of that? Because I'll probably, I'm heading up there anyway in a weekend or
so
so.
if you head down Bridgeway, which is the main road all the way downtown, there's an old Bank of America building that's right across the street from Poggio. It's a really famous Italian restaurant. It's right across the street there. There's a seating area there, and you'll see that those red awnings on that building right there. There's an old Bank of America building. There's 2 columns there that will explain the history behind what we did there. But yeah, it's pretty much at the very, I don't know, Bridgeway, and I don't remember really. I can let you know after the meeting if you'd like.
Yeah, great. No, I'd like to have a look and see what we're in for, and look forward to having dinner at the PCC. And
absolutely.
And a restaurant sounds good. I spent a few weeks in Lisbon and some other spots a few years ago. So one thing I will say about that visit I had to Portugal, by far some of the warmest and nicest folks throughout everywhere I went, that impressed me more than almost any other place I've been on the planet. Been a lot of places. So I think strengthening that relationship will be great. Thank you.
Councilmember Nackengast.
Thank you. Fantastic, all for it. Of course, I'm going to be the engineer. When we come back, are we approving the actual product in the public right away?
No, that'll be a separate discussion and process for sure.
Yeah.
That will need to involve our city engineer.
Yeah,
and
that's what I
public
was
works
wondering, if the city
staff.
engineer had checked it out. But fantastic, thank you for your follow-through in wanting, to make this happen. And I think you're seeing some support here.
Councilmember Johnson.
I just want to say thanks. I want to thank John Polino, which is back there. His son used to work for me, Tony, one of the best employees I've ever had. And John called me and said, you need to talk to Fernando. He wants to talk to you about a project. And so I met Fernando, and then I met Jonathan, his son. And we walked downtown and we spent some time. We had some coffee and met your wife. Thank you. It was awesome. Great time. And then we walked through the projects and he gave me all these ideas that he wanted to do. And he told me they were kind of up and coming. They were out there, but let's make this happen. And we got the Japanese Sister City done through Jill Imping. She contacted me. And so that project got done. So I said, this is the time to do this right now. Let's keep moving on this. And the Compass Rose was brought to my attention, and I saw that, and I went, wow, this is like Greek artwork right there. You know, the Portuguese have done this for centuries. Bring the history in. Nazare's got the surfing, the Mavericks. It's a perfect marriage. It's tourism that's going to be here. It's tourism for them, tourism for us, and the bridge between the two cultures. This town has been Portuguese descendants for years, and this brings a piece of their home to us, and so we can all enjoy. The food at PCC, I've been there a few times now, and whenever I go in there, I feel embraced. I feel like I meet new friends every time. I've known everybody. Most of the people here are most of my neighbors, but when I come in to have some wine and break some bread, we're all one, and that's what it's all about. And the mayor, I brought her over on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, and she broke some bread and had some wine, and we had this beautiful stew, which is very similar to what we do this in the Swedish culture, is you boil the sausage to get the oils and the flavor, and then you put the bread and you let it, and that was my dad's favorite right there. That was a Christmas dish, because back then it was like peasant food. You didn't have a lot of beef, so you did what you could. And your stew was beautiful. The bread was in there, freshly baked bread. You let it sit in there, and you let it soak in all the stuff and the cabbage. Unbelievable. I bought $110 worth of fava beans that day and gave them out to everybody. So I want to see this project move forward. I'm excited, Jonathan. You did a great presentation. Excellent, excellent. I'm excited about this.
I am behind this 100%, 1,000%. You know, so much of the richness and the enjoyment that we derive from living in Half Moon Bay, not just the ocean and the environment, but the richness of our traditions and the Portuguese traditions, the Italian traditions. You know, for me, that's what makes our towns such a rich place and a place that I want to belong to forever. And so I think it's a great idea. I think the next step is to give direction to staff to bring back the resolution. But I think you have seen solid support in the council and the speakers tonight, and we will work on this and make this a go. So thank you for a beautiful presentation. You know, in a world... In a world of conflict, this is the kind of stuff that brings us together, and we need more of it. So thank you for all you do. Yeah. All right. So I don't think we need a motion, do we?
The direction was loud and clear.
Okay.
We're going to keep moving. So we'll set up a meeting and keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you again. Have a good evening, everybody. We are going to move back to the regular agenda. So that would be for, I'm going to save that for the end. Yeah. So the next item is item 10A, the fiscal year 26-27 recommended operating and capital budget. We have seen this previously, so I don't expect we need to spend a lot of time on it. Hopefully we can move this forward and move on to some other important things this evening. So we'll give folks a minute to leave and then ask staff for a presentation. Okay. Okay, welcome, Ken.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, members of the public. So this presentation is going to be on the fiscal year 2026-27 operating budget for next year. Our fiscal budget runs from July 1st to June 30th, so we're closing in on closing out this year and looking forward to next fiscal year. This presentation, so with the budget, our budget goes through quite a bit of a process. It begins all the way back in January. On January 29th and February 1st, we had community listening sessions where council got to listen to the concerns and thoughts of citizens in the city. On March 14th, we had a council strategic planning and priority setting workshop where council discussed through their priorities for this coming budget. May 26th, we compiled feedback and came up with a draft budget that we presented to the Finance Committee. From there, we presented the full budget on June 2nd, the last council meeting, which was recorded and has much more detail about what's in the budget. We didn't receive any feedback from council. There was one additional item highlighted in the staff report that's suggested. But other than that, most of this budget is identical to that presentation. So we're back here tonight for final adoption. So here's a summary in the highlights. So revenues are about 24 million, which is about a decrease of about $1 million or 5% less. The majority of that is the loss of a major revenue stream, golf facility fees, and also additionally less one-time monies that we're expecting this fiscal year. For expenditures, we have a total of about 25 million, which is an increase of about 400K or about 1.5%. This is from us, the city, contributing to our risk management fund. So this past fiscal year, we decided to forego that as a deficit balancing measure. But this year, we feel that we can contribute back to the risk fund. Overall, the big highlight of this budget is that our reserves are fully funded at 12 million. Our reserve policy is pretty expensive and comprehensive. Best practice is to have reserves at 16% of your expenditures, but for our Half Moon Bay, our reserve policy is 50% of operating expenditures. So here's how all the numbers are laid out. You can see reserves at 24 million, operating expenditures at 25, and capital expenditures at about 670,000. We do have an annual deficit of about 1.5 million. We've been dealing with and managing a deficit for a few years now. It peaked at about 4 million a few years back, but now structurally it's around 2. So we're slowly but surely chipping away at that. So even though we have a deficit of about 1.5 this coming fiscal year, some things to mitigate that, we are proposing to use prior year savings. So the city has quite a bit of vacancies that we've intentionally held open as we went through evaluating the city as organizational staffing and how the best supply services to citizens. Our vacancy rate was about 30% for this year, but somehow we still managed to keep providing services. It's been a challenging year, but I guess the silver lining of that is that we have a lot of salary savings coming this year. We're gonna end this current year with a surplus of about 2 million. So that is quite a bit of change that we can use to mitigate the deficit going into next year. It is one-time monies though, but it does help us to float us as we keep thinking more about strategic and structural changes. Another thing we did is we are utilizing special revenue funds to fund our capital improvement project. The general fund is only paying about 600K to capital projects, but we're utilizing other funds for capital projects. Our total CIP budget next year is 25 million. We got there by use of grants from special gas tax funds, things that we can only use for capital projects, but are utilizing it for those purposes. And then the last point doesn't really speak to this year's deficit, but very important to mention that this budget cycle, the city developed a sustainability plan that was adopted by budget by the council last meeting. Some fund balances and reserves. So we have two tables here. The first higher table details out what we think we're going to end this current fiscal year at. We think we're going to end the year with about $4.2 million in unassigned fund balances. This is directly from all of our savings that we've occurred over the year from our mostly salary savings. Going into next year, we have a deficit of about 1.5 million. Reserves are at 12 million, which is fully funded, and then unassigned fund balance is about 2.3 million. There are some big pending items out there. Still trying to figure out if we can renew the golf facility fees, but also another one is vehicle in lieu fees. These vehicle in lieu fees is a section of property taxes that the cities of San Mateo County and the state have been arguing about for the past few years on what's obligated to the cities. Just recently, the legislator, the state owes us some of these monies, and the state is going, it's in the current year budget as far as making up for those back payments up to about 2/3. So we might see a payment of about $500,000 coming in. This would essentially be bonus funds. It's not incorporated into the budget, but once it comes in, it would fall into our unassigned fund balances, and which through our normal processes would be appropriated and considered during the mid-year budget in February and March. There are some other items that council has to approve annually with the budget. One is the GAN appropriation limit. This is a state requirement. This is essentially saying us recognizing as a city that we can't spend more than we a particular formula. For us, it is $45 million. We're not going to get anywhere near spending $45 million, but it's something that the state requires cities to acknowledge. And the other one is the investment policy. This is a policy that dictates how the city invests its funds, but there's no change since 2020. So those are just the items for council approval. I'm happy to take questions, and the recommendation is as follows. Establish the GAN appropriation limit, approve the city's review of the investment policy, and adopt the 2026-2027 annual operating and capital budget. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Ken. Any questions from council members?
Ken, I read somewhere, and I don't know if it was this report or the last one, we have like two reserve funds, and you had like this one that you don't touch. Can you explain that? There's two reserve funds.
Yes, let me bring it back. So we have two reserve funds. We have the general fund reserve, that's at 30% of operating expenditures, and that is for catastrophic events, right? A big earthquake, things that are completely unforeseeable. And then we have the economic uncertainty reserve, that's at 20% of operating expenditures. That was the most recent approved one back in 2020. And that is for mitigating the city through financial hardship on a short-term basis, whether that be revenues dipping temporarily, or it may be a one-time expense, or things to kind of bridge us to where we need to go. For the general fund reserve, it's about $7.5 million, and then for the economic uncertainty fund, it is about $5 million.
how much was it for the golf fees? What was it, like 600,000 or like
Yeah.
that? And then the in lieu fees was 700,000?
The golf fees are about 650,000, and the vehicle in lieu fees, the city, depends on who you ask, but it's the city's position that the state owes us about 1.8 a year for it. We get about $1 million, and then we have to argue for the rest of it. Has been the historical history with that.
And on the in lieu fees, we're looking at 500,000 potentially. Hopefully, we'll see that.
Yeah.
The golf fees, we need to get that on the record to see if we can get that back or work on that.
That's correct.
I have no speaker slips, but I do see a hand raised online. Sid Young.
Excuse me, but when you're talking about the vehicle in lieu fees, is that the same as the VLF fees that the county is suing the state to get back? So you have to ask for it yourself as well? Or you're waiting for the county to get the money back in your name?
City manager will address that.
Do we want to see if there's any other public comments before we respond?
I don't see any
Doesn't look
hands raised.
Okay, great. I'll just provide a little broader context for everybody. So the VLF, as was noted, we call it VLF, vehicle in lieu fees. It's one of the most complex financial issues I've ever seen in my 20-plus years in local government. There was a deal done with the state and the cities and the counties, a decade or so ago to move some money around. And the way the formula works, almost every other county in the state continues to get their full allotment of this. San Mateo County is actually punished because there's a connection to school districts. Our school districts are doing better than other communities. It's kind of a bizarre formula, and there's a few other counties that are affected by this. And so each year the county, with the city's support, has argued to have this money restored the last several years. It's really come to a head the last 2 or 3 years. And as the speaker said, there's an active lawsuit right now. It's a coordinated lawsuit by the county and all the cities in San Mateo County to try to get some of this money back. But what we're really looking for is a permanent fix to this. We don't want to have to go and argue for this every single year and scrap for it in the budget. They really need to get this fixed. The formula that was developed previously worked, and as time went by, it stopped working, and they need to correct that. So the county is really leading this, which we appreciate. They've got the resources to do it. All the cities are a coalition. We're all in it together. And there's been some positive movement, as Ken shared, over the last week. So we're going to build on that and keep this moving forward. It's an important funding source for us.
Thank you. I see no other hands raised, so I will bring it back. Could we have the recommendation on the screen again, please? So the motion is right there, if somebody would like to make it.
I move that we establish the GAN appropriate limit for FY 2026-27, we approve the city's review of the investment policy, no changes for FY 26 through 27, and that we adopt the FY 2026-27 annual operating and capital budget.
I'll second.
Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Brownstone?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Penrose?
Yes.
Mayor Ruddick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So we are now moving on to item 10B, which is the multifamily housing proposal on Main and at Metzger.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. On June 3rd, 2026, Mid-Penn Housing submitted a notice of intent to file an SB 35 application for a project for low and very low income housing located on Main and Metzger Streets. Tonight, Mid-Penn Housing will provide a presentation and hear feedback on the proposal. SB 35 is a state housing law that streamlines the review process, in part by limiting the review to objective development standards. In anticipation of SB 35 projects, the Planning Commission and the City Council approved the city's objective design standards in December 2024. However, tonight, Mid-Penn is here to discuss its project, not the process by which the project will be reviewed, although it's hard to separate sometimes. Please note that the City Attorney's Office will provide a presentation on the SB 35 general review process to the Planning Commission at its June 23rd meeting next week. That's 7 o'clock on Tuesday, here next week. All Planning Commission meetings are recorded, and those recordings are posted on our website. So I highly encourage anyone who wants more information about the SB 35 process to attend the Planning Commission meeting or watch the recording. For now, I'd like to introduce Allison Voigt from Mid-Penn Housing to present the proposal.
Hi, my name's Allison Vogt. Thank you for this opportunity this evening to share the Metzger Street project. Okay, I'm gonna just make sure I know how this works really. Okay, awesome. Okay. Yes, my name's Allison Vogt. I am a project manager with Mid-Penn Housing Corporation and one piece of the Metzger Street project team. I'm joined here this evening by our projects director, Nesreen Kawar, our senior vice president, Abby Potluri, and our project associate, Natalie Chu. Our architect team, Herman Colliver Locus Architects, are also here, and we'll walk through the design a little later on in this presentation. We are proud to build on Mid-Penn Housing Corporation's legacy of providing 100% affordable homes in the Bay Area, including thriving communities on the coastside and in here in Half Moon Bay. Our mission is to provide safe, affordable housing of high quality to those in need and to establish stability and opportunity in the lives of our residents. We are not only affordable housing developers, but by providing ongoing management and services to our residents, we are deeply invested in the communities we serve. Our purpose for presenting to you all tonight is to introduce the project and the proposed design to the council and the public ahead of our formal entitlement submittal. This meeting is a critical part of our community engagement, and we hope you can provide feedback on our current design iteration so we can address prior to submitting our formal entitlement application. We also want to cover our entitlement approach. We are using streamlined ministerial entitlement pathway under SB 35. Now to introduce the Metzger Street project, starting first with our bedrock goals for this project. First and foremost, our purpose is to provide much needed affordable housing for working families in Half Moon Bay and the coast. I shared Mid-Penn's mission on an earlier slide, and we are deeply committed to continuing that mission in Half Moon Bay. The second goal captures our approach for the development of the Metzger Street project. We understand that affordable housing is an urgent need, and we are facing a lot of change in the affordable housing landscape. As good stewards of public funding and to provide affordable homes efficiently, we are implementing strategies to contain costs at the outset of the project. Finally, Half Moon Bay is a deeply rewarding place to continue our mission. Last week, we held a community engagement meeting at our Half Moon Village property, and we were able to check in with current residents, your neighbors, and fellow community members. We hope to provide the same health, stability, and dignity to the future residents of the Metzger Street project. So what are we proposing? The project will address the city's low and very low RHNA requirement, providing 52 units towards a combined 285 units needed to fulfill the lower RHNA requirement. The 940 Main Street is identified in the Housing Opportunity Sites list in the city's 6-cycle housing element to address the RHNA requirement based on the allowed density under the local coastal land use plan. This represents about 18% of the lower RHNA requirement. The Metzger Street project is a 100% affordable housing project located on the western undeveloped portion of the 940 Main Street parcel. Our architects will cover the design in more detail, but I'll cover the basics. We are proposing three-story walk-up buildings that will contain 52 units. The units range in size from 1 to 3 bedrooms. There will be 2 surface parking lots accessed from Metzger Street. A little bit more about our future residents at the Metzger Street project. The project will serve individuals and families earning up to 60% area median income for San Mateo County. As a requirement of our funding for the County of San Mateo, we are reserving 3 units for individuals and families earning up to 15% AMI. We are also committed to providing at least 25% of our units for farm worker households, totaling 13 units. The remainder of these project units will be provided to income qualifying individuals and families. The families work in essential jobs that are the backbone of cities like Half Moon Bay, including restaurant workers, hospitality workers, caregivers, educators, and paraeducators. With that introduction, I'd like to pass our presentation to our architect team, who can walk through the proposed design and approach.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emma Ramoy. I'm with Herman Culliver Locus Architecture. As the architects for nearby Half Moon Village, which was built about 10 years ago, just 1 block away, we know this neighborhood well. We are approaching this new 100% affordable project with that same sensitivity to the area's coastal and agrarian character and small town feel, carrying forward the lessons we learned from our success at Half Moon Village. The view on the screen is from Metzger Street, looking northeast at the proposed project. Respecting the fabric of the existing neighborhood, these buildings are 3-story walk-ups with staggered gabled roofs to reduce the massing and scale. A simple palette of painted board and batten and lap siding features neutral, earthy tones that mirror the native vegetation and weathered hues of the coastline. Oh. The western building houses our community room and residence services, marked by a vibrant facade reminiscent of rural barns. The structures are clustered around 3 generous garden courtyards to maximize the open space. The largest courtyard, seen here, features community gathering areas, seating, and a playground for resident families. The project features 52 apartments across 3 walk-up buildings, offering a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments. 15% of these homes are fully accessible and located on the ground floor. To keep the heart of the development pedestrian-friendly and safe, we've pushed the parking lots to the far west and east edges. We are providing 64 on-site parking spaces, which is greater than a 1-to-1 ratio. The buildings are also set back from neighbors, buffered with landscaping, and the project will include accessible sidewalk and street improvements along Metzger Street. By arranging the structures sequentially along the narrow site, we've created an open design with north-south sightlines through the development and a residential-scale street presence. The structures are threaded together by 3 landscaped outdoor courtyards which include raised vegetable planting beds and children's play structures for the residents. Open-air walkways connect the apartments, and recessed terraces on the upper floors frame views of the ocean to the west and the mountains to the east. Finally, we want to acknowledge the community outreach meeting we held on June 4th. We fielded comments regarding the northern property line setback, the Metzger Street improvements, neighborhood parking and traffic, and the building colors. We plan to address this valuable feedback as is feasible as the design develops. Building on the success of nearby Half Moon Village, we are committed to a project that will be a safe, beautiful, and well-integrated asset to the neighborhood.
I'll just quickly cover our intentions for what we plan to include with our formal entitlement application. I understand that you'll be receiving a overview of the SB 35 process at the Planning Commission meeting. So I will jump into what we plan to apply for. We will apply for SB 35, which is a ministerial streamlined process, and that is CEQA exempt. We will also be applying for a coastal development permit, which is processed administratively. We will be applying for a state density bonus to allow for a 2% density increase. This also allows our project concessions and waivers from certain development standards. And finally, we'll be applying for a tentative parcel map. This is also processed ministerially when coupled with an SB 35 application and will effectively separate the William Metzger house from the development area. This historic home will not be included in the Metzger Street project. Emma covered our community engagement meeting. I just want to add here that we had 98 community members attend, and it was great to hear the feedback that Emma shared earlier. Our goal is to take the feedback from our open house and what we hear tonight and address it in our formal entitlement application. We welcome any feedback from the council and public tonight, and we appreciate your consideration of our project and our future residents. Finally, I'll briefly go over our development timeline. This year, we have focused on our entitlement preparation, including preparing the design we shared with you tonight. With the streamlined entitlement processing, we hope to receive our entitlement approvals by the end of the year or early next year. 2027 will be focused on submitting for building permits and securing financing. As we described to the council in December, if we are able to secure financing next year, then we can start construction as soon as late 2027. We anticipate construction ending in mid-2029, and there will be a focus and there we will focus on leasing up to residents that will turn Metzger Street from a project to a community. Thank you for your time this evening. We are available for your questions and eager to hear your feedback. Thank you.
Any clarifying questions from council members? Okay, so the main purpose of this item tonight is to hear from the public and allow the public and the council to ask questions. Council members will not be expressing, opinions. It's basically information only this evening, so I just wanted to remind everybody about that. So I will start with the speaker slips, and I have Paul Lippert. He's left the meeting? Okay. The next speaker is Carolina Carbajal.
Test.
Muy buenas noches a todos.
Good evening to all.
Vengo ante ustedes a decirles qué hermoso proyecto nos han traído este día.
So I'm here before you to let you know what a beautiful project that they've presented to us this evening.
Y quiero, bueno, quisiera que la comunidad se uniera a través, como se unieron anteriormente para este proyecto de Portugal.
So I would like for the community to really come together and unite the same way that the community came together like this other project for Portugal.
Este es un excelente proyecto para nuestra comunidad,
This is an excellent project for our community,
igual que 55 Kelly,
the same as 555 Kelly.
como lo está haciendo Stone Pine actualmente.
Like Stone Pine's actually doing it right now.
La comunidad latina y de bajos ingresos también somos un recurso de variables culturas.
So Latino community and low-income people are also a resource for a cultural aspect.
Los proyectos de vivienda para nuestra comunidad son muy importantes.
So housing projects for our community are very important.
Y es triste que en vez de seguirlos apoyando, mucha comunidad se está uniendo para detenerlos.
And it's really sad that instead of supporting these projects, there's a lot of people kind of getting together to oppose them.
Quisiéramos que como comunidad siguieran surgiendo más proyectos de vivienda.
We would like, as a community, to have more housing projects.
Es algo que necesitamos para nuestros trabajadores.
It's something that we need for all of our workers.
Nosotros también pagamos nuestros impuestos.
We also pay taxes,
Seamos inmigrantes o tengamos estatus,
whether we have immigration status or just immigrants.
la comunidad recibe nuestros ingresos, ¿verdad?
The community receives our taxes, right?
Aparte de eso, también trabajamos duros por la
So
comunidad.
aside from all of that, we work really hard for the community.
Desde los maestros hasta los que limpiamos casas, nos esforzamos mucho por
From
generar.
teachers to housekeepers, cleaners, we really put an effort into all of this.
Esa comunidad es la que necesita también estas viviendas.
That community are the people that need this type of housing as well.
Y es triste que siga existiendo ese debate de por qué construimos.
And it's really sad to have that debate continuously, like, why are we building more?
¿Por qué lo hacemos aquí a la par de la escuela?
You know, because it's across the street from the school,
¿Por qué está cerca de la clínica?
because it's close to the clinic.
¿Qué les gustaría que nos marginen allá lejos donde
Would
no
you
nos puedan
guys
encontrar?
like to marginalize us really far away over there?
Ese es un lugar accesible para la comunidad para que
Would that
construyan
be an
viviendas.
accessible place for this
Así
type of
como-
housing?
Así como está de aislada la otra comunidad de vivienda de bajos ingresos allá por el
So,
Ocean Colony.
over by Ocean Colony, where that low-income housing is also isolated,
¿Eso les parece bien a la comunidad que nos marginemos un poco más?
is that good for the community to be marginalized like that?
¿Esa es la forma que nos acepten construir más viviendas?
Is that a way to continue to build more housing?
Está bien, no nos oponemos.
We're not going to oppose.
Si estando alejados de ustedes nos pueden construir más viviendas, está bien.
If by being marginalized and being far away from you guys is how you're going to build more housing, that's fine,
La comunidad lo necesita.
because the community needs it.
Yo sé que ustedes no pueden ver muchos latinos aquí.
I know you don't see a lot of Latinos here.
No hay personas inmigrantes aquí.
There's no immigrants here.
No hay personas que vengan a hablar ante ustedes.
There's nobody that's going to come and speak before you
Tienen miedo.
because they're afraid.
Se les ha enseñado que no pueden decir nada,
They've been taught that they can't say anything.
que no podemos opinar acerca de proyectos,
We can't provide our opinion about projects,
que no podemos pedir viviendas.
that we can't ask for housing.
Por eso nosotros, los que nos atrevemos a hacernos, a veces somos juzgados también.
That's why us, the ones who dare to do that, we're judged.
Pero quiero decirles
But I just want to say this.
que antes que nos deporten o que nos saquen de este país,
Before we're deported or kind of run out of the country,
que quede claro que aquí en Half Moon Bay hay una gran necesidad de vivienda.
I want it to be very clear that here in Half Moon Bay, there's a huge need for housing.
Y los que estamos aquí lo estamos tratando de sacar a la luz.
And so we're trying to bring this to the light.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Chad Hooker.
Hi. Chad Hooker. I'm on the Architectural Design Review Committee, Architectural Advisory we call ourselves. And I'm not here speaking specifically about that, but I want to say that I'm excited to see what this SB 35 thing means. I think it's long overdue that we figure out how to avoid endless reviews and delays and meetings that go on forever and design specs that are poorly defined up front and therefore almost impossible for architects to meet and so on. I'm excited to see how this goes forward, and I think it'd be an interesting test of the SB 35 process and how it works in this town. So in that regard, I think this is good. But I do need to say something to the architectural team. We worked pretty hard on the objective design standards a couple of years ago, and from the renderings I see tonight, it's like they've never been looked at, like they've never been seen at all. There are requirements in there about offsets to walls, roof overhangs, quite a number of things, and I really think it's important that you recognize that the council, the planning commission, and the AAC felt that there were appropriate design features that belong in this town, and that's why we went to the effort to make objective design standards, and I do think they need to be adhered to. In this regard, it's my hope that City Council will require that the staff that does the review of this looks carefully at the design standards and uses reasonable enforcement. I think we've got a mechanism here to understand up front what the expectation is, to design to it, and to look at it and go, yeah, that meets it, let's build it, let's get people moved in. And that's what I'd like to see. But I do think you got to put some serious eyes on those design standards. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Chad. The next speaker is Ellie Carniglia.
Hi, my name is Ellie Carnelia. Oh.
Mic down. Thank you.
Yes. My name is Ellie. We live on Metzger Street.
Please speak a little louder, okay?
We live on Metzger Street, in the middle of the street, across from this project. We are not opposed to this project or affordable housing or mid-pen housing, which, I mean, we live near the Half Moon Village, which is very nice, Main Street Park. The problem we have is the density proposed, which is higher than anything here in town, with 52 units. That's likely to be around 100 cars at least. I think the issue is more that they aren't providing enough parking, and it's just the density is too great for our street. And I think we do need more affordable housing, but we can't put huge projects like that, or we will, I think we'll really feel the consequence of that with the amount of traffic, and there's already parking issues with the Main Street Park, and they have much more parking provided and much less density. It's all on their website. Main Street Park has like 14.9 units per acre. This one is around 35 units per acre, and it provides a lot less parking. So, no, I don't have an issue with this in general, or the mid-pen housing, but I think it is much too many units. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Reina Diaz.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Like my neighbor Ellie, I am not against the proposal. I'm only really concerned about the tree storage and the density. I think that we have a beautiful view, and with tree storage is way too high. and there are, well, from what I could see, there are not enough trees to really bring nature and be more blending with Half Moon Bay. I like what this gentleman talked about the codes for the city. I specifically drove in front of Amosport Landing on Purísima Street because I know there's also lots of housing there, but you can hardly see them. And parking is not a problem. And so I would like for people to look into what makes one section work and what is not making other sections work. People mentioned the housing where the park is on Main Street. And yeah, parking is really difficult for them. I know even at nighttime, people are coming to park their cars on Metzger and trying to always find every single space. They are parked bumper to bumper, and it's really sad. So the one thing I don't really want to see is a 3-story buildings and not enough trees to cover the faces, because I really love to see nature. And besides that, I think that really considering our workers in Half Moon Bay will be a prime, like this lady mentioned. I don't know her name, but you know, I see people working at the grocery stores, at the bakery. All they need housing, and so we really need low income housing, but also housing that is decent and is good for the town, especially if we want to go internationally. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is James Havey.
Could I ask Alice to put up the development plan again, the map? So you can see, yes. So my name's James Havey. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I represent Michael Svanovic, who lives on the corner at 950 Main Street, which is Main and Metzger. Find my spot, apologize. Michael, I would say, arguably has one of the best looking gardens in the entire Half Moon Bay area. And I know he's extremely proud of the compliments he gets from it. The Messer project has 52 units, probably will bring up to 88 parking cars who are going to be going up and down Metzger. Metzger's already extremely busy with the senior center, with all the events, yoga classes, the Thursday night dinners, the school that lets in and out at 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. every day. They are, as others said, currently using all of that dirt path on the side of Metzger. Our biggest contention, if you look at the map, is that there is a city-owned plot that goes from Poplar into the project. There was some negotiation. It didn't work out. I did speak to Scott Phillips about it. I spoke to Allison and Nasreem at the event on the 4th. And they were not comfortable committing to using that property at all, since they were not able to secure the corner lot on Highway 1 and Poplar. By requiring that or mandating that that piece of land and access in and out of the project would eliminate about 50% of the traffic that's going to be on Metzger already. And 88 additional cars won't be safe for the students, for the senior centers, and certainly not Michael walking up and down Main Street with a cane trying to have a normal life. We support the project, think it's value added, but I think you have to mandate that access to Poplar, that's critical. It's critical for fire department, it's critical for emergency services, the ambulances to get over the hill into San Mateo quickly and efficiently. And we hope you'll consider that after the CASP review. Please take a look at that and see if it makes sense from a safety standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Burgitz-Fanovic. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, close enough.
Okay.
Hi, members of the council. I'm here to formally express my concerns regarding the safety and well-being of our town's residents, but particularly our most vulnerable community members. The presentation points to the safety of the residents in the new housing, which I absolutely applaud. However, I strongly urge the council and you to prioritize safety for the residents of the local senior center and the children attending Seacrest School located directly behind it as you deliberate on this project. If you stand in front of my father's house during the school year, during the morning, and in the afternoon, you will see the traffic that is in front of the house and on our street and the kids that cross that intersection all morning and all afternoon. Others have mentioned the excessive traffic that the Metzger project will force onto this small, quiet, dead-end street. It will overburden the corner of Main Street in Metzger. I really, truly fear for the seniors who do cross the street. They don't just live in that facility, they actually leave the facility too. I fear for those kids, and I fear for my father, who's trusting that everybody else is going to look at his cane as he crosses that street, which he does daily, multiple times a day. Aside from safety, I would also like to ask if the heritage trees on Metzger are being taken under consideration. The way the plans are drawn up currently, these trees will be damaged and or destroyed. I'm not speaking of the eucalyptus, you can take that. I don't think there's very many people that love eucalyptus. But I am talking about the last remaining trees from the orchard that was once attached to the 940 Main Street property. As our Portuguese brother earlier mentioned, our agricultural roots in Half Moon Bay are strong, and I would hate to see these trees gone. Let me end by saying that I'm not against the project, just that the logistics desperately need to be tweaked, like Jim said. Look at the access to Poplar. Give us egress to Poplar. That's close to the freeway. It's easier for everybody to get in and out. It's already got the sidewalks. The street is already ready for it. And there's no kids crossing the street. The amount of traffic on those children and the seniors aren't going to be there. So I truly ask you to consider that, all of you. And actually, I have one really quick question too, because I kind of, after looking at this, who's going to maintain the greenery on the street? Because when we walk down Half Moon Bay, we also know that half of the greenery that's on the street, you walk down the sidewalk, you got the little green closer to the street. Half that greenery is taken by the residents. They take care of it. I know my father takes care of his side. So a lot of it does not look great. So I'd rather get rid of some of that greenery and just have the sidewalk, because unless you all are taking care of that greenery, there's no reason to have that problem there. Anyway, thank you for your time, your dedication to our town.
Thank you. The next speaker is Evelyn D'Souza.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members, Mid-Peninsula, and City staff. My name is Evelyn D'Souza. The development at 940 Main Street will be the first three-story building ever built on a residential street in Half Moon Bay, and at that, a narrow, dead-end street. It deserved a conversation with the people who live on these streets before the plans were drawn, not after. Plans have been circulating for at least 3 years. 3 years, and not one resident of Metzger or Poplar Streets was proactively notified. You've noticed that there's a lot of us in attendance tonight. Not when the scale became clear, or that its three-story structure would cast significant shade across neighboring properties, not to mention the traffic and parking impacts. Even when not legally required, most cities proactively reach out to residents for projects of this scale. While we are very grateful to City Manager Matthew Chittister for committing City Engineer Dale Ladada to a traffic mitigation study, it cannot be where the conversation ends. To Mid-Peninsula Housing, you have a fantastic reputation. We welcome you and look forward to partnering with you openly and to you partnering with us every step of the way. And to each of you on the council, city staff, come walk these streets with us. See the width of the road. See the parking already strained on an ordinary day. See what happens at 3:30 in the afternoon with school children and seniors trying to navigate crossing Main Street. Stand at what are two big major traffic hotspots and tell us what mitigations you plan. I close with this question to the council and to city staff. Tell us what that commitment looks like and when it begins. Thank you.
The next speaker is Joaquin Jimenez.
Good evening, honorable mayor, council members, city staff members of the public. Joaquin Jimenez, Joaquin Muret, social media. I support this project 100%. For many years, I was a resident of Main Street Park. That was when I was a young teacher in our community. And I was a resident there for many years. Now my daughter, who just graduated from college to become a teacher here in the coast, it is a resident on the same location. Low-income housing applies to a lot of our young college graduates or young teachers. If you look into what is to be considered to be low income, the poverty level in San Mateo County, you're gonna see for a household, you have to make less than $120,000 a year. A young teacher is making $60,000, $65,000 a year. So that is low income. Also, or in house, the residents of the shelter, it's a possibility for them to go in a location like that. So we do need housing. I agree, there are some consequences of parking, but every location that we find in the coast, including Half Moon Bay, there's gonna be an issue with housing. There's gonna be an issue with traffic. It's not being questioned, but we are talking about is about the Mid-Penn housing has been providing housing for underserved community, for low-income community, affordable housing. For those of you who do not understand what affordable housing is, and I know we have a lot of residents in Half Moon Bay do not understand that, that means your rent is based on the income, the yearly income, that you bring to the household. It does not mean, you are a low-income person. It means you are, you're paying your rent based on that. So, thank you for bringing this project, forward. That location, it was one of the locations that it was talked about a possible location to bring housing to our community. And it is an opportunity, or the reading cycle is coming along pretty quick. And hopefully by then, this location will be built, with the support of the community. And yes, have more meetings, have more people come forward and support a project like this, because we do need them. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Rick Hernandez.
Good evening. I'm Rick Hernandez. I'm a member of the Planning Commission. I helped put together the objective design standards that we're talking about here. I also walked by all of your houses for 11 years, walking my kids to Seacrest almost every day. And I support this project. I think it's a very important project. We have an obligation as a city to provide orderly, planned development. We want to have control of that development. We are behind schedule to meet our housing needs for this housing cycle. We have 480 units of housing that we need to plan for, and we are not meeting that. If we don't meet our standards, we're going to lose control. If we block projects, this 3-story project will turn into a 5-story project. And we'll have more 5-story projects through builder's remedy. So I think it's very important that we treat this as an opportunity to come together. And I do think you guys are a partner. I've spoken with the architecture team. I'm impressed with the work they did in Half Moon Village. I think there are definitely things that need to be addressed. The circulation is a problem. We need to have bike access, we need to have pedestrian access, and we need to figure out how can we improve the access on Metzger. I'm not sure about adjoining Poplar, but there's some concerns there about how do we connect this to the bike trails, how do we connect this to the sidewalks. But overall, I think this is a very good project. It's a very good start. It's a great use of the space. It's not dominated by parking. There's lots of landscaping. It's beautiful. And there are opportunities to improve it. I also agree with Chad Hooker's points, and I've shared this with the design team. Our objective design standards are not reflected in this project, but it's a good start. So there are things that need to be done, and I have confidence that you guys will work with us as partners, and I really encourage you to sit down with the neighbors, because I think you can address a lot of their concerns, and I think you can invite them to look at the other projects you've done. I think this has a tremendous opportunity to bring us together. So thank you for being proactive. I know it would have been nice to see the plan sooner, but we can make this a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. The next speaker is Nancy Fontana.
Oops. Can I talk? Okay. I wasn't really planning on speaking on this, but something tweaked I just had to. I had occasion to go to one of the Architectural Review Committee meetings by accident, but I stayed and learned a lot. And I think what they do is really, really valuable. And I don't understand how that wasn't incorporated. I don't know if it's a procedural thing. I don't know if the city should at first get them involved early on, so we're not here at a meeting tonight bringing that up. But at any rate, I do value what they do, and I was surprised that they didn't, the architects and applicant, I'm sorry, maybe weren't aware of it, I'm not sure. The other thing I'm starting to notice is, and I don't know if there's a solution, but we're getting projects. We need housing, so we're going to be getting these projects. And I understand the Kelly project is for seniors, so there's no playground. I believe Stone Pine has a playground, but it's for just those residents. This project is going to have a playground for its residents. The only park in Central is Carter, which is great. But in a residential area, and the places on Main Street, I don't know that their parks and play area is open to non-resident children. And I'm a little concerned of the number of places we're getting that are open just exclusively for residents of a development. And there's not enough for just people that live in the residential areas. I think that, I don't know what the solution would be, but I think it's too bad that people right across the street or people in the neighborhood that might be impacted by this, yet their kids, if they have small children, don't have a place to play. And I think that has to be put into some of the planning stuff early on. But I think it's great they're providing that, but I'm getting concerned that other residents are being left out. And we're getting little parks all over just for exclusive use. And the last thing is I'm disappointed that people feel they're being minimalized. I don't like the Moon Ridge project. I felt right away when I heard about it, I said, gosh, they're being, that's not right. They should be in part of the community. And I think they've come to meetings and said and made their voices loud and clear and in great numbers. So I think that was a little bit of an exaggeration. Thank you.
Just one correction. I believe the park in Stone Pine is actually open to the community.
That's correct. The city council entered into an agreement with the county so that we maintain it, and it's now a city park open to the public.
Oh,
Yes.
good. I wasn't aware of that, but that's good.
Yeah. Thank you, Nancy. The next speaker is Rocio Avila Garcia.
So, Madam Mayor, Ms. Avila is going to provide her comment, and after she's finished, I'll provide you with the site translation.
Hola, buenas noches, miembros del concilio y personas presentes. Mi nombre es Rocío Ávila y soy líder comunitario en esta comunidad y miembro del Comité de Vivienda Asequible. Quiero expresar mi apoyo al proyecto de vivienda de Metzger presentado por MidPen. Y como ustedes saben, miembros del concilio, saben la gran necesidad que hay en este lugar y las condiciones en las cuales muchas familias viven por la falta de vivienda. No es nada nuevo porque por años se los hemos venido a contar a estas reuniones y lo han mirado en los medios después del tiroteo. Este proyecto dará la oportunidad de una mejor calidad de vida a familias y más que nada a niños que anhelan tener un espacio y un lugar donde ellos puedan estar tranquilos y disfrutar su niñez. Pero me da mucha pena y tristeza que siempre que se presenta un proyecto de vivienda, por alguna razón no les gusta el lugar donde se hará la vivienda, o no es el lugar adecuado, la altura o por el tráfico. Siempre salen muchos motivos. Y los entendemos, pero les pido que entiendan la necesidad de vivienda que se está viviendo aquí. Y también quiero decir algo más sobre las firmas que se han recolectado para que vayan a la boleta de noviembre. Es triste saber que las personas que no necesitan una vivienda sean las que decidan si se construye el 555 Kelly y que no sean las personas que necesitan una vivienda las que puedan decidir. Muchas gracias.
Good evening, members of the council and all people present. My name is Rocio Avila, and I'm a community leader and a member of Committed Housing. I want to express my support for the housing project here in Metzger that was presented by MidPen. And you, council members, know that there's a great need in these types of places, in these conditions in which many families live in. It's nothing new because for years, people have been coming to you to tell you about these types of things, and they've come to the meetings and they saw all of the things in the social media after the shooting. This project will give a better quality of life and an opportunity to families and more so kids that dream to have their own space and a place where they can be calm and really enjoy their childhood. But I'm really sad and embarrassed to say that anytime that there's a project that's presented for a reason or another, you'll say that you don't like the place, it's not the adequate place to put it in, the height, traffic. There's always a lot of reasons, and we understand, but I'm asking you to understand also of the need for housing. I also want to say something else about all of these signatures that were collected and that are going to the ballot this November. It's really sad to know that these people that need housing are the ones that are going to decide not to build 555 Kelly, or that these people that need the housing have no say or able to decide in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Greg Jameson.
Good evening. I'm Greg Jameson. Good evening, Council. Just wanted to make a couple comments. I've been following Mid-Penn's projects for years, and I think they've done an excellent job along the coast. The project is on east side of Main Street down by the fire department. I drive through there a lot, and it's always clean. I don't see any issues. They do have a lot of cars, but that's just part of life these days, and hopefully with this project they can work out some of the details of the concerns of the neighbors. I'm sure with all the comments made tonight, they'll be able to work out the details as far as the architectural design and so forth. But the one thing I wanted to bring up that I'm most concerned about is regarding who gets first opportunity to live in this project. And I'm hoping that people that actually work in Half Moon Bay somehow get that first shot, because I think that's really what this is all about, is to support our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. We're moving now to persons with hands raised online. The first speaker is Michael Ferreira.
Good evening, Mayor Reddick, council members. Mike Ferreira, Half Moon Bay. I would just like to say that I was enthusiastic about what I saw on the flyer that Mid-Penn put out, and I went to their meeting looking forward with joy to be able to see a project like this in its location. And I asked some questions, got some good answers. I didn't like the red paint as a view from the highway, but that sounds like something that can be fixed. But I then heard SB 63/423, two laws that do nothing more than disrespect city government and democracy, as is the case with many of Senator Wiener's bills. And I don't quite understand how this project would work in this town with this, under those constraints. Already we've heard some pretty reasonable comments about this project. It didn't get done to community standards, so will staff fix that? I don't understand how the street works with SB 35/423. If they're going to rebuild the street and the sidewalks, is that part of the project? It's a public street. So I don't understand how that falls under SB 35/423. I went on the web, I see that prime soils, you can't use SB 35 on prime soils. I don't think there's any more prime soils in all of Half Moon Bay than on that property. But still in all, what's there is the makings of a good project. Overall, I kind of like the way they separated buildings instead of making it one big block. So that would respond to some of the people's worries about sunlight. The parking is not great, but it sure beats the heck out of 555 with 40 units and 80 occupancies and 18 parking places. So 65 sounds pretty good to me. I don't know where all the boundaries of the street are relative to the city's right-of-way. And I don't understand how all of this can just be dumped in the planning department or a go stamp or a no-go stamp. Or I guess they don't even get a no-go stamp. I don't even understand how that process works. I don't understand how the council oversees its own staff on this project.
Excuse me, Mike, but your time is up.
Sorry.
But I think
having too much fun.
the Planning Commission meeting next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock here was probably a good place to be to learn a lot more. The next speaker is Sid Young.
Thank you. I guess I'll piggyback a little bit on what Mike had to say, but again, Scott Wiener has put in so many different legislations that basically take cities' chances away to control their own destinies. And while I'm in favor of what Mid-Penn has to do, I attended every single one of their meetings up in Moss Beach when they put in the Cypress Point project, and it wasn't till really later on that they came to us and asked about coastside design review, the color scheme. They had it barn red for the whole thing, and finally we said, come on, put in some coastal colors, blues, greens, that sort of thing. And I think they did change the color scheme finally. But, and fortunately they did put in, because it's so remote up there, they did put in 2 parking places per unit. But this one is like 1 parking place per unit. So the problem is they don't have any way of legislating who gets in and how many cars they have. They'll take you on your, what's the word? How much you make per year, but they don't say how many cars you have before they let you in. So they're not going to be able to legislate how many people are parking cars on that property, or if you come in and you say you don't have any cars, but you really have 2. So that's going to be a problem for the existing neighbors. It's going to create street parking wars, et cetera. But there's nothing that you can do about it. And then also in the housing, San Mateo County suddenly came along and said, oh, well, now we're going to put 2 or 4 homeless people, 18 farm workers up there in Mid-Penn at Cypress Point, and they never mentioned it the whole time they were planning the project. That's fine, I don't care, but they never put any seniors up there at all. And we, all along from the very beginning, we said that would be ideal for seniors because seniors don't drive as much. So it wouldn't create a big commute problem up and down Highway 1. And so, I don't know, I mean, I see parking as an issue on every single property that you guys have been trying to put through, especially the 555 Kelly. And you don't have much choice because of Scott Wiener's rules. That's all I have to say. I think it's, going to go through. You're going to put Metzger in, and I think the neighbors do have an issue, but what can you do? You have the state breathing down your necks.
Thank you, Sid.
Sure.
Next speaker is James.
Hi, my name is James Carnelia. I actually live at 632 Metzger Street, so right across the field. I'm actually not opposed to building that lot at all. If anything, I encourage building on the lot. The only issue that I really have with building is the units and the parking, as it's been mentioned over and over again. I mean, it's just really simple math. You have 52 units, and you have 2 people living in each unit. That's 104 cars, potentially. And then you sprinkle in some additional people who just so happen to live in the building, too. And then all of a sudden, you're, 120 or something like that. And I don't know if the Mid-Penn has actually looked at this, but our street on Metzger is actually a spillover for a couple of communities. The senior housing, they actually park up and down our block already, which creates additional parking congestion. Arnold Way, those townhouses over there are always struggling with parking, and they come in and they park down Metzger as well. And then you have Seacrest, the school. When there's big events, it basically blows parking out of the water down our street. So you have those three items, and then you have the limited parking that the people are going to be having inside of these units. I see there's no way but to have a parking crunch. And like I said, I'm a part of the BPAC, the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee for the City of Half Moon Bay, and I would love for there to be less parking, and I would love these people to live in these housing and be able to get around town. But I think we really have to be serious here. We live in a car-dependent city. If they wanted to get to Safeway, it's a trek. You need a car. If they need to go to the hospital, you need a car. It's just unfortunate, and the public transportation in Half Moon Bay, it's there, but it's not great. It's very infrequent, and it's very cumbersome. So, and I would love to say that they could ride their bikes, but when you have a family of three loading a bike up, going through Main Street and Highway 1 is not many people are willing to do it. So again, I think the parking is really just a big problem, and I think the fix to that is probably just to lower the units. But like I said before, I'm not opposed to it at all, and so thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.
The next speaker is Dan Haggerty.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I want everyone to know that I fully understand the need for affordable housing for our lower paid community members. And I'm not happy with the Sacramento laws that are unfairly taking away our local control. In regards to this project, I suggest a two-story project that blends better with the community and has less impact of density. Essentially, the sardine can living situation that would eventually evolve. I want to say that, excuse me, the birds in our community have no interest in nesting in the roofs of these taller structures, and they will block sunlight for other trees to thrive. I grow vegetables, so I understand the potential loss of sunlight to the surrounding neighbors. I want all the appropriate vegetation to have a fair chance with fair and sufficient sunlight. I feel the employers of the visitor-serving community should help fill the gap of worker housing needs and be spread out more thinly around the coastside community as it's truly needed and feasible, instead of only forcing impacts on the community members that live or use this area. Agree with Chad Hooker that the architectural elements should blend better with the town character. And in my opinion, what was shown to me appears essentially cheap. I think they can do better. And once something's built, all the people that live here, include and also visitors that come to our community for the reasons of escaping the metropolis of the other side and the region to relax. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. The next speaker is Ken Chan.
Good evening, Half Moon Bay City Council members. My name is Ken Chan, and I'm the organizing manager with the Housing Leadership Council of San Mateo County. We work with communities and their leaders to produce and preserve quality, affordable homes. On behalf of HLC, I'd like to express our support for the Metzger Street proposal by Ms. Penn Housing, a nonprofit affordable housing developer with more than 55 years of experience in creating and managing quality affordable homes throughout our communities. Your city continues to face a shortage of affordable homes for the very people like your teachers, your service workers, and your farm workers who make your community such a great place to live. The Metzger Street proposal is an opportunity to help address that challenge by creating 52 affordable homes. Affordable housing is not just about the look of a building. It's about helping the very people who make your city such a great place to live and for them to remain where they work. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this proposal and encourage the city to work collaboratively with Midpenn Housing to ensure that these much needed affordable homes can be delivered to your community as quickly as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken. Those are the only speakers we have this evening on this item. So I will bring it back to the City Council. And I would ask the city attorney to just provide direction on the extent of the council's ability to comment this evening.
So the purpose of this evening, the presentation this evening, it was to give the council and the public an opportunity to become familiar with the project and receive some information about the project. It is part of the process, as was discussed by Director Lako, that there is a SB 35 statutory requirement for the process. And this hearing tonight is part of that process. So this evening, the council can ask questions of the applicants and discuss any things that they heard tonight and ask for clarifications if they'd like from the applicant on certain topics. But this, I apologize, Mr. Hernandez, I think you.
Sorry, I was waiting for you to finish. Our lovely attorney advised me that I did not clarify that I was speaking on my own behalf. So that's all. And thank you. Welcome to the city.
So that was an important clarification. So that's really the scope of this evening's process.
Council members, clarifying questions? Councilmember Nagenkast.
Thank you. So staff's going to review this. This is why we did the objective design standards, so they could design something for staff to review. So has staff gone through any comments yet?
So we don't have a project application yet. We have a notice of intent, which is a notice that they intend to submit an application. And they have this process so that we can start tribal consultation. There were 17 tribes that we sent letters out to. And so that we can confirm that their project actually does qualify for SB 35. So that's what we have in front of us right now.
So what, I'm trying to understand. So we're just going to throw out a bunch of stuff, as a council, we're just going to throw out a bunch of things like, okay, I'll just say, I don't like the red paint. Is that a comment from council?
That would be a comment from council. I mean,
you could.
You know what I mean?
You could ask why the red paint? Yes.
We're on this because I'll go in. If you're doing a subdivision here, are there full street improvements going in on Metzger? Or, there's some things to me I would be, but I don't know if our city engineer has looked at this, right? Because then I start putting on my engineer has fire looked at it. I look at emergency access. Can we have something off Highway 1?
Right.
I know there was discussion here off Poplar, but so I feel a little weird trying to comment on, that, or is it going to come back to us again?
I'll let Director Lako answer that. But I think, again, we're at the very preliminary stages. The complete application has not been submitted, so.
Yeah, so we don't have an application, and when we do get an application, then it will be routed to those bodies that typically we route applications to that review it for completeness. And then, and in as part of that review, it's hard not to also look at whether or not it meets our standards, objective standards for development and design. So we'll do a completeness review. When we get a complete application, then we will look more seriously at the objective standards and designs. But right now, it is a time to see what's before us and provide preliminary feedback. We're working with Mid-Penn Housing, who has a pretty good history of taking that feedback and working with it. So this is the first chance. It does not have to come back to council. That's part of the law.
Even the map, subdivision map?
I'm not sure about that.
So my understanding is they're going to submit a parcel map, which doesn't necessarily need to be approved by the council.
Interesting. Okay. So then could I just list just some things in general that, looking at a quick picture, red paint, and then I would also look at the emergency access somehow off one in case something's on Main, if Main's clogged. I know you can't have access off Highway 1, not asking for that, but just, I don't know, I assume fire would comment on some of these things. That's something I would look at. I would look at full improvements on Metzger because it's going to be utilized.
Yeah, fire will have a chance to provide comments as well.
Okay. And that's just my initial, looking at it.
Who's next? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I'm wondering about the consideration for Half Moon Bay residents as residents of the project. Yeah, preferences.
And through the mayor, I guess this is a question for the applicant.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's something that we're willing to explore, ensuring that fair housing laws are being met and that it's not in conflict with any of the requirements of our public lenders. We can work closely with city staff to follow up about that preference, but it might have to be a coast side preference or a countywide preference.
I know with 555 Kelly, we have a provision where Half Moon Bay residents get first priority, coastside residents second priority. And I would like to see that sort of a system set up.
I think, yes, that's something we can explore with city staff.
Okay. The other thing I'd like to say is I have to agree with Chad Hooker's comments. Not to put down the architect's renderings, but I do think a little more in and out on the buildings and not such flat sides, especially when it's 3 stories high. It makes it look even higher and more forbidding. A lot of windows on a blank wall. Yeah, I don't like the color red either. You said that there were how many parking spaces? 67, was it? 64. So that would seem to me be plenty of parking spaces. What did happen? I don't know what happened with the city's discussion about access on an easement through to Poplar Street. I know that was part of the discussion, but I never heard what happened.
There were some early discussions about that, but that's not currently included, but we're open to continue to talk about that for sure.
Okay, good, because that could provide emergency access to and from the project. Okay, thanks. That's all I need.
Councilmember Johnson, do you have any questions or comments?
I like the project. I noticed there was some parking changes because I remember seeing the parking was behind before. It wasn't it, Leslie, changed before, or am I looking at a different project? Parking was in a different position before.
I don't think I ever saw any plans before these plans.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think they may have had some early plans when I was
I think I saw
fairly
something
new.
where they were behind the buildings.
Yes, that was an early concept design that we considered, like more of in a feasibility stage of whether or not we should, pursue purchasing the 940 Main Street and what kind of project it could support. But after that feasibility stage, we moved forward with Herman Colliver, Locus Architects, and we have this design.
Which I think looks a lot better. I noticed that right away. It's off in one corner. Is that the corner by the Highway 1, or is that on the which side is the parking then? Because I couldn't really see the map.
There's a west and east parking.
Got it. Okay. So the only thing is the red building did catch me, and everybody's bringing that up. I know you guys want that barn thing, but we're not into the barn thing if it's not a barn. And the earth tone colors, I definitely would like start working with the palettes, work with Chad Hooker. We went through a lot of designing. If somebody were to come in and say, well, if you don't build it, we will build it. So we had some design concepts that we came up with in the beginning of the year. Little tweaks that make it look different. I work in an area where I see a lot of the housing, and I'm not against Mid-Penn at all. I'm just saying we want something that looks different than a Mid-Penn housing than San Mateo. Using that example where I'm at on 20th, they all look the same. So looking unique would be cool. A lot of little details, which Chad Hooker was always good at. He did a lot of work with the 555 Kelly building. If you look at what they came out with and what they finalized with, it was a lot of great tweaking, if you would, and I think the community enjoyed it. At the end of the day, most of the people that were opposed, I remember going to the last meeting, they said, I really like the design now. So community input and design concepts and changing palettes and details is what I would like to see, and make sure that we have people in tune on that. Architectural detail, the red barn, I wrote, not happy. Landscaping, Amesport. I lived in Amesport. I remember when Amesport was there, it was one of the first communities, and that was how I got in this community. It was the most affordable I could get at that time. And we planted these little trees, and I got involved with that. I was on the board there after years. But the trees became a problem. They're a big problem right now. And I'm into trees, but the trees over there are cracking the sidewalks inside the courtyard. They're having major problems. So make sure when we do the landscaping that we're not overdoing it, and we're not sitting there getting drainage issue problems, cracked cement, broken pavements, things like that, because Amesport's a good example. Walk through that, you'll see what happens when you go overboard. Blocking of sun, I'm a true believer that we got to make sure that we have daylight, and we have daylight for everyone, and we're not blocking. Separating buildings and things like that so that you can get some air in there and some light. Bicycle pathways, access, parking. Pathways, which Rick brought up, I think is a great thing. If we can have, parking for bikes too, so promote bicycle riding and pathways, just like we did at the Hyatt and a lot of the other projects, so we can get people to ride downtown. I think riding downtown is what I do all the time. It's quicker, it's easier. I ride from Kehoe to Main Street all the time. I can be there quicker than driving a car. If we get more people to do that, we'd have less cars on the street. It's not going to be easy for doctors when you go to the doctor's office or something like that, but quick shopping works. Go to the, wellness spa, whatever. Go to Nanos for Kava. That's what I do. So I think a lot of people can do that if you provide access and bike locks and storage facilities for their bikes. Street improvements for Metzger. That's definitely on my list because we do have safety issues. We talked about the lot on Popular access. I'm not sure if it's feasible, if we can do something like that. But just making sure that Metzger's safe and we're not creating an area of hazard for people's safety. Parking's always going to be a challenge. We have to work with that as best that we can. But I think this project looks good, but I think it needs a little bit of Half Moon Bay touch and a little bit of our expertise from the people that live here to look it over and Planning Commission to go through it.
Councilmember Brownstone?
Just want to have a couple of questions first. Are our objective design standards apply to all construction? In other words, it's not just for private homes, but this type of construction as well?
We have residential design guidelines for private homes, and our objective design standards apply to multifamily units.
Okay, so to this as well. Okay. So I don't know how things evolve such that, well, let me just ask the question. Is MidPenn aware of our objective design standards? Because I feel like somehow there's this missing answer. Like, were you aware of that as you entered into design here? Because I'm hearing from, our architecture committee that things didn't look like those standards were followed. So I don't know where the clarification is. Do you know what I mean? Like, you say you did take it into consideration. So maybe there needs to be more conversation, with
Our city attorney wants to.
Just to clarify, it was Chad Hooker spoke as an individual, so not the committee itself. The comment was from an individual on the committee.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify that.
So, there's some realities here, some dilemmas. SB 35 does take away a lot of local control. It's a fact. So not everything, and we'll learn more next week. I'm really hoping that everyone who's here watches that Planning Commission meeting so we can all be on the same page of what the impact of SB 35 is. Be that as it may, I think I trust that MidPenn Housing wants to build something that works for the surrounding community. And I think the community surrounding should certainly get together with representatives and create its own committee to communicate more and more with MidPenn and people who can keep abreast of the process so that the project, as it moves forward, because really it's its very initial stages here, there is plenty of time for people to state their opinions and their concerns and how MidPenn can address them. I mean, we had a similar situation a while back, even more out of our control, was Coast House, right? Our homeless transition facility. And the county didn't have to ask our permission. They were allowed to purchase a hotel and turn it into a homeless transition facility. And there's a lot of concerns in the community, remember? And the county invited Half Moon Bay to create an oversight committee, as you might recall, to give us feedback. Because there were concerns. Who's going to live there? It's going to be threatening. Kids walking to school, a lot of concerns. And, so far that's worked out. But it was a good model. When sometimes you feel you don't have control, well, how can you have some input that can influence decisions that get made about this project? And that's what I'm kind of hoping we work with as a city and as a community to pursue, those kind of communications so we're not surprised by things and that we have a steady flow of information back and forth to the community. So yeah, I'll be tuned in to next week so I get a better understanding of SB 35. And I'm sure all our council members, we're going to really want to get a good sense of what the limits are and guidelines, et cetera. Thanks.
So I'll start with a question. Are there not noticing requirements for a project like this? Typically with a development application, aren't we required to notice all residents within like 300 feet or 300 yards around a project perimeter, notice them of a pending application and what it is and that sort of thing. No, we're deliberating now, so you'll have to sit down. Thank you. Aren't there noticing requirements for the neighbors?
I don't have the application yet. I assume that there are probably noticing requirements, but one way or another, we would provide a courtesy notice anyways. So when we get an application, we will post a notice at a site as we typically do. And then even on occasions when noticing is not required, we usually provide a courtesy notice. So we would do the radial noticing and send out the cards.
Yeah, I think that's really important in this case. So not just the posting, but the noticing would be important. So as far as the objective design standards, that's the one area where we can exercise control. So we have them, they're relatively detailed. The project needs to follow the objective design standards. And I don't see a lot of room for interpretation, actually, having participated in the development of these design standards. So that's going to be a really important nexus between, the approval apparatus and the project, and something I think that the public will attend to, including, planning commissioners and architectural review board members who are going to be speaking and watching this as citizens, but have that expertise in the development of the standards. So I would just say that. As far as working with the community, I think it behooves you. I don't know that we can make specific requirements, but the residents of Poplar Street and Metzger, there's not that many, dwelling units on either of those streets. It seems to be relatively easy to at least do some concerted outreach to the Poplar and Metzger residents as you move this forward and get input. And I like the idea of the setbacks from Metzger. I'd be very careful of not pushing it too far back up against Poplar. So you want to try to, stay in the middle of that green area to the best that you can to minimize the sunlight impacts, noise impacts, light impacts, and that sort of thing. So those are basically my concerns. Others have already brought up, like the color palette. I think I mentioned at the meeting that I didn't like the red either, but something that's more, earthy or coastal, something like that. I liked Rick Hernandez's comments about the possibilities with the project as designed. Yes, it needs more work to conform, but, I don't see it as an ugly or overly industrial project, so I think it is a good start. I think vegetation around the building, will help. But those are basically my concerns for this evening. So, Councilmember Nagengas?
Yeah, thank you. One more question. Since this does not go through formal review processes, how does the public ensure they've been heard? I mean, how's that relationship work going through one of these SB 35s? Is it through the staff, or we rely on, in this case, Mid-Penn, to make sure they're holding all the meetings, incorporating the neighbors? It's due for all of us, right? We're trying to understand how this works and ensure that the neighbors have been heard. I think even here in the council wants to make sure that especially the immediate neighborhood, that their concerns are addressed or at least being heard.
Yeah, we can have a public hearing with the Planning Commission, so that would be an opportunity for them to be heard, and that is something that I'm sure is needed here.
Okay. I thought SB 35 said you couldn't do that. That's what I'm trying.
Well, the Planning Commission isn't making the decision, but they can hold a public hearing.
Oh, to have it like
So
a-
it's another opportunity for
design
people to be
review.
heard.
Right, Director Lyko, for just to
For
clarify-
design
For
review.
design review, so they
Yes.
can review the design.
So, yeah, so for example, we could have a joint Planning Commission AAC hearing where they can look at the objective design standards and comment on those.
It sounds like maybe that might help. I mean, I've been hearing concerns, and this is, again, new for all of us, but I want to make sure that, we're hearing what's being said. I think the project is being accepted, and it's a good project. It's just maybe always the devil's in the details, but just getting us there.
Yeah, you're right. The devil's in the details and the devil's in the timing.
Yeah.
So once we have a complete application, we have a small window to get to the Planning Commission and the AAC and have that design review.
Okay. So it sounds like they're still going to go to the PC and AAC to meet, to go over design objectives.
One question. So I understand that this is a ministerial project. Now, as the community development director, I seem to recall seeing notices of the CD director's administrative hearings, like when you're making an ministerial decision, but you're having a meeting where people can hear what you're doing, something like that. Will you be having like your own meetings? Noticed meetings?
Yeah, so for coastal development permits that don't require Planning Commission approval, we do hold directors' hearings, and those are public, and they get noticed in the same way. But for this project, it needs to be processed administerially, so there would be no director's hearing in this case. So after a design review session with Planning Commission and AAC, that is really the last forum, yeah. And I am also still becoming familiar with SB 35. So I'm not an expert. I'm learning as I go here.
Well, and then our city attorney, Denise Bizzano, does have resources at Burke, and she's been working on that and sharing information, so.
Yes, we do have resources for that, and my colleague, Mary Wagner, will be conducting the presentation to the Planning Commission on the 23rd. She's been assisting staff with housing element issues and other housing issues, and she's assisting on this project as well.
Well, I would say to the neighbors, if you haven't introduced yourselves to the Mid-Penn team working on this project, you should do so. And face-to-face, and, offer to, provide input and assistance. Because, as Robert pointed out earlier, this is a ministerial project. There isn't a lot of control here, but, there is opportunity for some personal contacts, and those should be made. And there'll be more at the Planning Commission, more abilities to learn, but, you're neighbors to the project, and you ought to introduce yourselves. If you didn't go to the meeting that they had at the senior housing there a couple of weeks ago, that was a good meeting. If nobody has anything else, I think that's the extent of what we're offering up tonight. And I'm going to thank the Mid-Penn team for coming down and making a presentation, and thank you to the neighbors for coming. Don't hesitate to share additional information, whether the council, Planning Commission, the CDD director, Mid-Penn, stay active. It does impact your quality of life, and there should be conversations, so thank you. And I think we're going to take a short break, 5 to maybe 7 minutes. Yeah. B, which is consider and adopt a resolution establishing a policy on how to address disruption of remote access during public open meetings of City Council in compliance with SB 707. And our city clerk will make this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Maggie Rodriguez, your city clerk. Today we are here to talk about SB 707 disruption policy. So just a little background, this is a part of Senate Bill 707, which requires all eligible legislative bodies to offer remote public participation for city council meetings through either two-way telephonic service or two-way audiovisual platforms. This is something that we've done for a very long time in Half Moon Bay, so it's nothing new to us. We use Zoom, and we allow for comments to be called in or through the Zoom platform. And pursuant to SB 707's definition, the City of Half Moon Bay is an eligible legislative body. And SB 707 amends the Brown Act, and it requires all of these bodies to adopt on or before July 1st of this year a policy on how to address any disruptions that may happen. We unfortunately are familiar with that sometimes here in Half Moon Bay. So this is just addressing should that situation occur. Some simple definitions just for anyone here tonight or wondering. A disruption means a failure, outage, or other interruption to the city's telephonic or internet service that prevents members of the public from attending or participating. And the remote access services means the two-way telephonic service and or two-way audio-visual platform.
I really like definitions, so thank you.
Yeah. So should this happen, there are certain responses that we must take. So first and foremost, if there is a disruption during a meeting, we shall immediately, upon learning of the disruption, announce the disruption to the public. And then we either adjourn or recess the open session for at least 1 hour to make a good faith effort to restore the access. During that recess, if we had agendized something earlier, meeting the deadline requirements, council may meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54953.4. And then if following the recess of the meeting, if the access services have not been restored within that 1 hour, we may reconvene the meeting if the council adopts by roll call vote a finding that we made good faith efforts to restore that service and that the public interest in continuing the meeting outweighs the public interest in the remote public access. So here are some efforts that we would take to restore those services. So we would troubleshoot the platform or teleconferencing software. We would reset or replace any audio-visual equipment that might have malfunctioned. We would attempt alternative connection methods. We would contact necessary support staff or service providers, or we would switch to backup equipment or platforms if they were available. And for timing, again, we would need to recess for up to 1 hour if a disruption had happened. Historically here, if something like that had happened, we were able to resolve it before that 1 hour. And if that were the case, we would just carry on with the meeting. But if after 1 hour of good faith efforts, we were not able to restore service, Then we would have to adopt by roll call the statement, the City Council of Half Moon Bay has made good faith efforts to restore telephonic or internet service in accordance with its adopted policy, and the public interest in continuing the meeting outweighs the public interest in remote public access. After we would adopt that by roll call, I would put that into the minutes for that meeting, and we would also note the following within that: the nature and time of the disruption, whether open session was adjourned or City Council compiled into the procedures in pursuant to section 5.1 in the policy, the restoration efforts that were undertaken, the time the meeting was reconvened if we did, and the finding adopted pursuant to section 6.2 in the policy. And for other policies here in Half Moon Bay, this can be reviewed and amended from time to time, but as required by the Brown Act, amendments to this policy must be approved at a properly noticed public meeting in open session and may not be approved on the consent calendar. And that's all I have for you tonight. The policy was within the staff report as an attachment.
Vice Mayor has a question or comment?
I'm a little confused by the language in the first slide that you had that talked about timing. You said they had to convene for at least an hour. Shouldn't it say for up to an hour? I mean, we don't have to stop the meeting for an hour.
Correct.
It's only going to take 5 minutes.
Yes, if it only takes 5 minutes,
So
then.
it's the language there
Okay.
that needs a little work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the language in the statute, so that's why it's mimicked in the slide. So in other words, the council could wait longer than 1 hour to try to get the connection.
No, I get it, but if it's only going to take 5 minutes to fix the connection, the language is saying you have to take an hour off.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It doesn't mean that you have to remain for 1 hour.
It does say that, though.
I understand what you're saying. I understand the confusion. But again, I think that's the statutory language.
Yes.
And so that's why it's mimicked here. But I can double check while we're proceeding. But it doesn't mean that you have to remain outside of the session if the connection is made again.
But it says it. I mean, I know what you're saying.
I understand,
but that's
yes.
what it says.
Yeah, let me just double check the statute and see
Yeah.
what the language actually says.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have a question or comment, or can we go ahead and make a motion?
Yeah, we need to take
I-
public comment.
There's no
Oh, right,
public comment.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address this item? Is there anybody online that would like to address this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council.
No questions? I'll make a motion. No. Okay. I move that we adopt a resolution establishing a policy that will provide steps on how to address disruptions of telephonic or internet service connections during public open meetings of City Council in compliance with Senate Bill 707.
Second.
I'll second. Oh, did you second?
Well, you can second.
You could third.
All right, third. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So we're moving on to item 11C, which is consideration of easement agreement granting city drainage and utility easement over land owned by Sewer Authority Mid-Coastside, known as the Lanster parcel, APN 048-240-040.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No presentation for this tonight, but yes, Councilmember Patrick needs to recuse on this item. Is that correct?
I live too close, so I'm...
Yeah, I think you need to go out of the room because you're gonna have a similar issue with the next one too.
Is it okay to sit in the audience? Because it's just...
So Patrick Johnson has, Councilmember Johnson has, this is his private residence, so he has a personal interest that allows him to sit in the audience, and he can participate during public comment as an individual and speak to his private, personal interest in the property.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. I don't have a presentation for you tonight, and actually for this item, I'll just give a very brief update. We're actually going to recommend that this item be pushed to a future meeting. This is an item that came about through a discussion related to the next item, and is an opportunity for the city to look at addressing an issue along the Pullman watercourse, or the Kehoe watercourse, which runs just to the south of the Casa del Mar neighborhood along a parcel owned by Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side. It's something we've been talking about for a while, and there's an opportunity for us to obtain an easement to have some land to work with in order to address some drainage concerns there. This item was at the SAM meeting last night, and in the form that you're seeing it today, the SAM board, which consists of 2 members of our council plus reps from Montero Water and Sanitary District and Granada Community Services District. The board as a group collectively wants to see some tweaks to this and improvements to it, and so they didn't take a vote on it last night, and we'll be working with the attorney for SAM and staff from SAM to modify this and bring it back at a future time. But it's an exciting opportunity for us to address a stormwater issue that has been ongoing and will be a real benefit to the community and to protecting the SAM plant for the foreseeable future. So our recommendation is to allow staff to go back and work with SAM on tweaks to these documents and bring it back at a future meeting. Thank you.
Sounds good. So now we're moving on to item 11D, consideration of Second Amendment to Agreement and grant of easement between Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side and the city to extend the grant of easement for continuing the use of the SAM plant parcel APN 048-240-030.
Madam Mayor, before we start the next item, going back to the prior item, did we take public comment? And then I think that it'd be good for the council to formally make a motion to continue the item 11C to a date uncertain, because we don't know how long it will take for staff to prepare the item. So that would be my recommendation before we move on to the next.
All right, so is there anybody in the audience that would like to address this item? Anybody online? Not seeing any. I would entertain a motion to continue this item, which is 11C, to a future date uncertain.
I move that we move item 11D to a date.
No, 11C.
11C to a date in the future.
Uncertain.
Uncertain.
Second. A roll call, please. No, not a roll call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item 11D. I already said what it is. Let's just move on.
All right. So this is a related item. Historically, the city owns the land where the sewer wastewater treatment plant is, that is owned and operated by SAM, and that is allowed through an easement. So the city owns the property. In 1982, the city granted an easement to SAM to allow the construction of the plant and use of the plant. The original easement was for 20 years. A few years later, some things changed and it was extended to 40 years, which meant it expired in 2022. Unfortunately, people weren't aware that that had happened, and only recently in researching for a project on that SAM parcel did SAM staff realize that that easement had expired. We're still a member of the agency. Obviously, operations continue as normal, but in order to move certain projects forward, it really is important for this to be resolved permanently. And so last night at the SAM board meeting, the board voted unanimously, including our representatives, to extend that easement and make it a permanent easement with a couple of caveats. So I'll just read it directly from the staff report. The expiration of the agreement and grant of easement would be extended retroactively to 2022 so that it would be deemed to have never have lapsed. And it would continue until such time as one or more of the following occurs. Either the parties mutually agree to terminate the grant of easement, the sewer authority Midcoast side is dissolved, or the sewer authority Midcoast side no longer operates a wastewater treatment plant on that parcel. So when we talk about being dissolved, that could be that there's a new agency, which is something we've been talking about, and then it could be transferred to them. But the point is, this is the purpose of that parcel. It should be used this way as long as there's a need. And so that's staff's recommendation, that under similar terms and conditions as previous, and it's part of the attachment to this agreement, to this item, we extend this easement indefinitely under those certain conditions. And with that, we can take any questions. Two of our council members, Councilmember Nagengast and the mayor, are on the SAM board and participated in that meeting last night and could add any additional details as well. Thank you.
To the mayor, I have nothing to add.
The mayor has nothing to add. Absolutely nothing to add. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address this item? Is there anybody online on Zoom who would like to address this item? Seeing no hands raised, I'll bring it back to the council for a motion. That's 11D.
Yep, it's a long paragraph. I move that we approve the Second Amendment to agreement and grant of the easement between Sewer Authority, Midcoast Side, a joint powers authority, and the City of Half Moon Bay to extend the grant of the easement for continued use of the SAM plant parcel, APN 048-240-030, authorizing the city manager to execute the second agreement, and finding the approval of the Second Amendment and easement agreement exempt from review under the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA Guidelines, Section 1301, Class 1 existing facilities.
Second. Could I have a roll call on this one, please?
Councilmember Brownstone,
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Penrose,
Yes.
Mayor Reddick.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we're moving on to item 11E, City Council priorities for fiscal years 2026-28.
I'd like to welcome back Councilmember Johnson.
Welcome back.
All right. Thank you for giving us a little bit of time tonight on this item. It's important for us to continue to move forward on priorities, but I also know we're all eager to get through this. So I'll make this quick. You know the history, you know the background. We have a process that's been in place for several years. I will share that I think this is probably the last year that we'll use this process in its current form, and that one of the things we'll want to look at and maybe need to add as a priority for this year is to later on this year kind of look at our strategic planning and our process for all of this. It's, you know, the city's changed, the community's changed, the world has changed over the last 7 or 8 years, and it's probably worth another look. But for now, this is what we have. So what I've done is I took feedback from our last discussion on this at the end of April and tried to refine the documents a little bit better to make it a little clearer for everybody. And we've kept the organization, categorization, because I think it just helps us to frame some of this mentally, and it does help us to assign some of these responsibilities to departments anyways. So we're still looking at the categories of organizational health and excellence, housing, economic and community vitality, parks and rec, public health, safety and emergency prep, and then transportation, circulation, and mobility. there was a document attached to the staff report, which is similar to the document that was attached to the previous item, but broken up a little differently. That document was a very long document and included a whole bunch of projects that we're already working on, as well as a list of new opportunities. And the feedback I got was it was just too hard to read. There was just too much there. There's still a lot here. This is just the list of projects we are not currently working on, but over the last year and through the priority setting process have come up as opportunities. This is all on one slide. It's a little harder to read. I've also broken up the categories into separate slides if that helps. What I'm really looking for tonight, because ultimately the goal of this is to bring back a work plan that lays out a timeline for accomplishing some of these things, is to get your feedback. One, is there anything on this list that, again, I've collected over the last year and through the priority setting process that just should not be here? Like, hey, maybe in a future year we can work on this, but it's just not important right now, especially in the context of everything else we're working on, or this just doesn't make sense and shouldn't be here. And then what are the top things you want us to be working on so that as we build the work plan, we can prioritize those things? And then the goal would be to bring back a priorities work plan in July, hopefully for approval. And then if there's any funding requests, we can bring those forward as well. So with that, I will point out that through the miracle of modern technology, the Sister City Agreement's been added to this based on the discussion today. Again, looking for your feedback now and can take that back and develop a work plan going forward. Thank you.
Does anybody mind if I go first for a change? Okay. So, I think it looks pretty good, but a couple of things have...
Oh, can we leave for the council the list displayed? There you go. Thank you.
So I have a couple of things that I think need to be added that I don't see. One of them is, developing a sponsorship program for Carter Park. So it's important to have fees, but I think we need also to have, to create, the fundraising opportunities that'll allow us to, raise some money.
So it's not on this list because it's on the second part of that attachment as something we're already working on.
Okay.
So it's in there and it's a priority already.
All right.
So already underway.
Then the other thing, which doesn't seem to be, is I walked it again, the portion of the coastal trail between, Ocean Colony, just north of the Colony Club, up the hill, across the bridge, and leading up to the, Redondo Beach Road. It really is a mess. It looks to me like a hazard. The tree roots, and I've had, I haven't had many complaints until this past year. And to continue to use it as a pedestrian. So I think we need to deal with it. I believe we're responsible for it in any case. And maybe it's a matter of, going to the Coastal Conservancy for a new grant. But I think this needs to be on the list of priorities. I don't think we can let it go anymore. So I'd like to, it's a hazard. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that. You can't ride a bike on it, really, and sure.
I was riding my bike to Ritz-Carlton, and I was returning and coming back, and I see a couple with a baby in the stroller, or whatever you want, and they're literally having to take the baby out of the stroller, and pick up the stroller to carry it through those routes. And then when I saw that, I was like, how am I going to get my daughter in a wheelchair through this? It's ridiculous. It won't work. And that's when I brought it up to you guys, and I've said it over and over, and I want to say thank you, Mayor, for bringing this up. This has to be fixed. Has to be fixed. And I think it was brought up in Bruce Russell's letter to us.
Mayor, I'm not sure your microphone.
People who want to go to the Ritz, from other neighborhoods, or they want to continue on down, and they can't really do it there. It's become an obstacle.
And now that we've advertised the coastal land use trail,
The new
parking
trail.
and parking at Redondo, there'll be more pedestrian bicycle access going on there. Yeah.
So, are there 2 other people who would agree to add that on?
Yeah, I would agree.
Thank you.
Can the list please stay up on the screen? Thank you. I don't know about taking things off of the list yet, but I do think that study of a healthcare district is critical. I think coastside emergency care, lab, radiology care are critical. And to me, that's a #1 priority.
I would agree with that. I have brought this up several times over the last 4 or 5 years about the life services district concept that they use in the North Coast. It might be worthwhile just contacting somebody up there and asking them, next time you're down this way, could you come to a meeting and talk to us about, your life services district? It's a taxing district, but the way they do it, and it's created in state law, you can use the funding generated to do almost anything. You can do urgent care, you can do emergency services, you could buy everybody air ambulance insurance, because up there, the nearest trauma center is Santa Rosa. So if you're living in Humboldt County, you gotta be flown to Santa Rosa. It's like a parcel tax to create the life services district. You can get ambulances, you can pay for lifeguard services, lifeguard stations, like on the beaches, your own helicopter, whatever you want to do. But, they're landlocked up there, and it's hard for them to access medical care. So they created this in California law, the special life services.
That might be a lot easier to do than trying to create a healthcare district.
It's another
because
tax,
what we
but-
really need is urgent care, lab, and radiology.
Yeah.
Those 3
You create a board.
services.
It's the Life Services District Board, right? And, public is involved. About what should we spend the money on? What's most needed?
I think the public would agree to a parcel tax.
It's just one of those things, right? I mean, it's just,
They want health care.
Yeah.
They certainly want it.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea. So that would involve it'd have to be put on a ballot initiative, right, for a parcel tax. We're always talking about if public's really committed to something, that they should consider a parcel tax. If anything, I agree. Public would agree to this.
County and city, right?
I was just going to say, if we show the county with a parcel tax that we're willing to make that kind of a commitment, we can certainly get county and state support, I think, on something like that. If we're showing we're putting skin in the game, every household, that's what gets cooperation and attention. So I think it's a great idea.
And the more development, the more SB 35 development we get, the more evacuation gets harder, and the more we need stuff here, right?
So what this probably is going to need is a feasibility study. So as part of this work plan, we'd bring back a timeline for us, researching that, probably seeking county support and looking for grant funding, those types of ththings, to have that feasibility study done, which would help inform the community, the age-friendly workforce, co-site group, and ultimately the effort to create this through a ballot measure with plenty of time to get that on the next election.
Well, I think it actually has to be, the thing itself has to be created in state law, I believe.
Okay,
think
this
the
is one that
legislative
requires
process.
legislation.
I believe so.
Okay.
But I think I already did some research, so I could certainly share what I've
Well, and I'm sure those
put
folks from
together.
Mendocino could help us figure out how to
Yeah, I have
do
like the
that.
bill number that created it and, stuff like that.
Great,
And,
great.
we could just talk about it initially and not put a lot of time into it, but just run it by everybody, see, what do you think of this? Something like that,
And Ray Mueller's become quite the expert, remember, on all the stuff with the Attorney General that has to get approved for a medical facility, remember all that? And make it kosher from the beginning that, picking the right partners and stuff. So I think he'd be real helpful on what those MOUs would need to look like later on. Great.
So do I have a second person interested in making that a priority?
Yeah, I think you got everyone here, but I'll second it for now, yeah.
All right.
I look at, we're busy. Because I look on pages 3 and 4. 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 shows what we're trying to do with the reduced staff. And obviously I focus on public works type items. I know the Highway 1 project there for the terror signal and that work that's going to happen there. It's going to be a big deal for the city. That's going to be huge. That's the largest, I think, public works project's ever been contemplated and completed here. If we keep waiting, it keeps increasing in costs, and so hopefully, and I'm cautiously optimistic this fall or winter, early winter, we might be able to advertise that. But that's going to really keep us busy, and it's going to affect the community. So it's going to take a lot of conversations, we kind of get an idea of what's happening with the shop project. That's, not as widespread of an area, but it'll be concentrated in one area, so that's something we should pay attention to. I just want to put my usual pork chop removal on Highway 1 in Kelly and the sidewalk from Kelly to the shopping center on the west side. I know. I talked to the city engineer a little bit. He said, well, there's something on the east side versus west side. You're not going to build it on the east side. If you're going to put a sidewalk, it has to go on the west side, which is the southbound Highway 1. But I add that one every year.
Caltrans been so efficient.
Yeah, well, they built it bigger.
Caltrans been so efficient with the current paving that maybe they've saved money. They'll have something extra. Wishful thinking. I'm optimist, always.
I do like the rubberized roads. Yeah.
One thing I want to point out on the list under Parks and Recreation is the Poplar Beach Fire Pits pilot project. So as you recall, last year, it kind of started in 24 and then bled into 25. We had an Eagle Scout build the fire pits that were tested for a few weeks on Poplar Beach. We're in possession of the ones that survived. And we now have a CDP exemption, although we are working through a few logistics with the Coastal Commission on that right now. But we have the opportunity to deploy those hopefully in the next month or so. And there's a chance to expand it slightly. It's well within my funding authority to do it, but I just want to make sure there's support for that pilot extending through this coming summer, hopefully.
You're stealing my thunder. It's on my blue line right here.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, that's exactly what I was trying to say. The Poplar Beach fire pits, I want to see that happen. And then I also would like to see that there's one pit on the top of the bluff tops for accessible for people in wheelchairs or families or something. If we can do that, so nobody feels excluded. The other one was the Johnson House property recreation, because I think that's a prime location. It's really cool. It's got history. I think we should do stuff. I think Hillary's had some great ideas, and I think we should ask Park and Rec to expand that, because I know it's limited in space. No? Okay, I won't go there. And then are we picking one or two, or do I pick?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, what I'm looking for is, should anything come off?
Yeah.
And then, like the discussion around the healthcare district, what needs to be elevated is like top priority.
Can we call it the Chloe Hernandez Fire Pit Program?
Chloe Standez?
Sorry, Chloe Standez.
Say things that I definitely want to see is the banner program, and then the wayfinding signs. Those.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that and say, let's put off things like the streetscapes master plan right now. Let's just deal with some quick fixes and try to help businesses downtown as quickly as we can without getting bogged down in difficult things like streetscapes or parking garage studies or downtown formula business chains or ordinances. I don't think we need to be dealing with those things in the immediate future. That's my thinking.
Well, this is a 2-year thing too, right? So.
Yeah, we'll build a 2-year work plan, but certainly if there's kind of a consensus to focus on some quick wins, the work on the bigger stuff will continue as it, like if a grant arises that looks like a good fit, but we can focus our energy on quick wins, again, if that's kind of the consensus of the council. And I will share that staff met with reps from the Downtown Association last week. We meet with them monthly, and they kind of prioritized what I would categorize as some quick wins as well.
There's no way I'm going to add anything to this list. Thanks for it's really comprehensive. I'm glad to see there's a lot of the things on the other list that we're already working on. But since I brought it up the other last meeting as an agenda item, and you said, oh, wait till we do this list. I like the wayfinding signage, but specifically the downtown directory kiosk, at MacDutra Park. I just think that, one, it's great. It'll be great. You see it at every shopping mall. People are used to it. And I think our downtown businesses will feel like we're actually really being responsive, so people will know what the heck is 3 blocks down on Main Street, and they've been asking for it for a long time. It's not crazy expensive, So I think, if we can kind of get that agendized, it's on here, and it'd be very responsive and visual every day. They'll see, yeah, this is good, right? Yep. So it'd be nice. Okay.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is, we have an interesting time here. There's an extra Tuesday this month, and we cancel our first meeting of July because of the holiday. So we have 5 weeks before our next council meeting, which is a great amount of time for me to work with our staff, build out the work plan, a realistic work plan, identify, hey, if we're going to do this, we need extra resources. The CIP is certainly an area that, when Dale, our city engineer, presented it previously, he shared there's formulas, there's standards, and there's a certain amount of, rough dollars that each engineer can work on, which limits our capacity. And so as we look at the CIP and look at timing, we may have to find ways to get more engineering resources to move more of these projects forward, or stagger them out longer. So that'll be part of the discussion in July. I think I have a good sense of what's important to you. And if I'm off, we'll correct it then. All right?
5 weeks, yay.
5 weeks between meetings. I don't know what we're going to do.
Loving it. Public comment. Is there anybody in the audience? Oh, there is. There's somebody in the audience who would like to talk.
I'm really excited about the fire pits. Eddie Andrini is working to get them, we'll be working to get them built out. We just sent him the notice that we're going to move forward. And it's going to be really exciting stuff. So hopefully, if things go well, the fire pits by July 4th.
Sweet. Anybody online? Oh, yes, Sid Young.
Hi. I know I'm not, oops, sorry, I hear an echo. I'm not Half Moon Bay, but I did talk to one of the sheriffs at Farm Day, and a long time ago, when I was on the fireworks committee, which was eons ago, we used to have employed the scouts. And I asked him if they still had that, and they do. But we don't use them here in Half Moon Bay for traffic enforcement or anything, but he said they could look into it. And I don't know, I know you guys have to negotiate your budget every year with the sheriff, but there's weekends when you probably could use that as a way to, they're younger guys that are interested in law enforcement, and maybe they could help with traffic enforcement in the intersections where there's gridlock and stuff. The other thing is, under your housing plan, you didn't make, this is just planting a seed, but there's a lot of people who live in Half Moon Bay, people who are parents who have volunteered year after year at the Pumpkin Festival and all the different town events, that raise their kids here, but now their kids can't afford houses. And everything is always low income. So maybe you guys could consider a project with mixed income housing, some affordable, some not affordable. I don't know, mixed income
housing. It's called social housing, yeah.
Oh, is that what you call social housing? Okay. I call it
yeah.
mixed income, but that's what they call it in the city. And the last thing is, if you could define a healthcare district, you're talking just Half Moon Bay, right? Not putting a parcel tax on the whole mid-coast.
Well, I mean, to make it really effective, it would have to be the county and the city.
You mean the whole mid-coast?
Yeah.
Or the whole county? Oh, well, I know Seaton's probably getting ready to open. They've been working on things, so they might object, but I, as a senior, don't want another parcel tax. I pay hefty fees for my Kaiser as it is, but as I like to say, taxed enough already.
Okay.
But I know you guys need it down there.
We're just going to gather information first. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I don't see anybody else there. Do you feel like you have adequate direction then? Okay.
All the discussion about housing, which is important. And I'm looking at all the lists, and do we have the infrastructure for the amount of housing we're talking about? I mean, and there's so many things that are infrastructure. There's the sewer and water. I know the city's not responsible for it, but anything that has to do that supports the housing you're talking about. I just always got the impression that housing was such a focus that infrastructure maybe should have been focused on first and then the housing. Maybe I wasn't coming to meetings then, so I could be unaware that it already was being done. But I really think if you're talking about housing so much, I'm trying to look at everything to see how many things are related to infrastructure. There's a lot there. And it's very nice to have things that make your town more pleasant, don't get me wrong. But infrastructure is so important. So I don't know if you can identify a separate area that infrastructure that supports housing and how you're addressing it. Thank you.
Yeah, at some point, we'd have to look at sewer connections based on wet weather flows. And the water hookups, of course, are limited. So But that, people have to, when they come for, bring an application forward, they got to demonstrate that they have water and sewer hookups, right? Yeah, so. But you're onto something for sure. Okay, and you feel you're good to go on that one. So we have to go back to item 9G, which is the Citizens Option for Public Safety Grant Program. And I pulled it. This is just a quickie. It mentions potentially funding continuation of the ALPR, pilot program. But I discussed it with the city manager today. And the pilot, based on the contract, concludes in October. So we're going to be bringing an item back in September about discussing ALPR. So I basically said we shouldn't spend anything on ALPR or move forward until the council has a chance to revisit, have a discussion about it and decide whether or not we want to continue it. So that's all.
I would agree, because that's the flock cameras, right?
Yes.
Yes. We need to have that discussion before we spend any more money on that.
Yeah, the way the COPS program works is you have to do an annual resolution identifying what you could spend money on in order to actually do it. And so we included it because if the council were to extend it, this would be the best funding source for it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't require us to do that. And we would come back to council for a discussion before we would ever extend the contract out further. So this is just taking care of some administration, but I think a sensitive issue like this, it was important to elevate this so people knew we weren't just doing something. This is just lining up the funding for a potential decision down the road is all. So, yeah, so we'll bring that back in September before the current agreement expires, and the council and the community will have a chance to weigh in on how we want to proceed, if we want to proceed.
Yeah.
If we accept the grant, is it kind of a use or lose by the end of October?
No, this funding accumulates. We have a very healthy reserve of funding, but the use of it is limited to supplemental law enforcement public safety services. So it can't supplant, like we can't use it to pay for our sheriff's contract, but we can use it for additional public safety offerings, and that's how we're treating ALPRs. There's other things that we pay for out of this that are beyond the regular sheriff's contract.
Okay.
So, but we do need action tonight, so we need a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the Administrative Services Director to accept the State of California Citizens Option for Public Safety Grant Funds for fiscal year 26-27 in the amount of $100,000 and approve using those funds on projects, support, and equipment that meet the conditions of the grant.
So moved.
Second.
And Madam Mayor, just want to confirm we don't have any public comment on this item?
Yes. So is there anybody who wants to discuss this item in the room? No? Is there anybody online? Seeing no hands raised, I'm bringing it back to the council. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 12, which is items for future discussion, possible future agenda items.
Yeah, just that one.
Sure.
This is something I discussed with Councilmember Megan Gast. A while back, some folks from Frenchman's Creek were concerned about, as you exit Frenchman's Creek where the traffic light is, there's no sidewalk. And there's been a lot of safety concerns about people getting hit by cars. And they knew Paul, they came to Paul, and he copied me and Dale. Dale sat down with them and actually put together a pretty good plan and design for what it would take. The cost would be around $30,000 to $35,000, including the pavement. And I was really happy that Paul, our master city planner, took a look at it all and said, yeah, this is pretty dangerous. So I would like to, and then I spoke to Dale, and, he wasn't sure whether we could sort of move forward on that based on all our other projects. But then when I realized, wow, it's $30,000, that's not so bad. So I'd like to get that on our agenda. They were so concerned that they were thinking of maybe paying it for it themselves. It would be great to come back to them and say, it's probably something we can take care of, because it's not so hard to just pave a little bit of sidewalk there.
Isn't that part of the East Side Parallel Trail project?
It would be as part of the construction. I think the concern is that that's several years out. That's all.
Yeah, it just seemed that would seem kind of far down the road, though, to reach.
I mean,
I don't know when.
Yeah. So I was saying, if we could maybe take a look at that first to make it happen quicker.
I would think you'd want to coordinate it with the overall plan.
Yeah, I think they looked at that.
And when we bring this back for discussion, that would be part of that discussion is, what was already planned and how it integrates.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
All right.
okay, great.
Can I get a second on that?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, thanks.
We're good to go. Item 13, city council reports, any? This meeting is adjourned. Probably should have asked for public comment, but.
See you next month, guys.